Ron.
We on?
Ron.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here tonight. This is the Tuesday, June 7th edition, regular city council meeting for the city of Sebring, Florida. If you'll please rise, I'd like to ask our mayor to lead us in invocation and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. You all please bow with me. Lord, thank you once again for the wonderful city we live in. Thank you for our residents and our staff and our council that make the city run. Throughout the world, we're just having all sorts of issues, and it's even hitting at our little community that we live in. And I just ask tonight that I'm going to have a prayer for stability. It says, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Yes. Where uncivil words prevail, show me how to model love. Help me remember the God-given dignity of all and invite others to do the same. Show me how to build bridges and not walls, and see first what unites us rather than how we diverge. Let me seek to understand before asking to be understood. Give me a listening heart filled with empathy and compassion. May I be clear in sharing my own position and respectful and civil in describing those of others. Let me never tolerate hateful ideas. May I invite all to charity and love. Lord, help me to imitate your compassion and mercy. Make me an instrument of your peace. Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor Shoup.
I think we're running out of
Always
room.
appreciated. Clerk Haley, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Shoup.
Here.
Bishop.
Here.
Carlisle.
Here.
Mendel.
Here.
Stewart. Detman.
Here. Thank you very much. Business from the audience. Very seldom do we have a packed house and then some. Considering that, I would ask you to take a good look at the consent agenda. Those are items A through I. If you have anything that you would like to discuss that would relate to any one of those subject matters, I would ask you to let me know so that we don't just pass the consent agenda and move on to the next order of business if you have something to say about that. So if you'll do me a favor and take a good look, I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. Your consent agenda, A through I, and let me know if anyone would like to speak on any of those matters. I'll pull them from the consent agenda, put them up for discussion, okay?
Tom, there's
Very
extra agendas down here if somebody doesn't have one.
There too.
Okay.
Oh, it's on there. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you don't have one, they're up, right up there. See that, item 8, consent agenda. While we do that, I will ask under item number 7, any council members' concerns, comments, or liaison reports. I'll start to my right. Mr. Bishop.
No report.
Mr. Carlisle.
Yes, I went to the Sea Service Museum for the Memorial Day service. That was very good. They had a lot of people there, well attended.
Great.
And Councilman Mendel went as well. And it's just a great place. If you've never been there, you need to go. It's an awesome place. That's it.
Thank you very much, and I'll bet you the mayor wants to talk about the triathlon.
Yes, I do.
The non-triathlon on Saturday morning for the
Yeah, we had a
kids.
little weather event, if you all were
Right.
around Highlands County, that never showed up. But unfortunately, Dan had to make a decision a couple days ahead of time to cancel the kids' race. It had about 240 participants that did not show up because of that, because of the kids' race and that stuff. But it still had a great race on Sunday. Pulled it off. Dan and Laura really put on a good event. It brings a lot of people in town, gives us a lot of notoriety. Everybody you talk to not from town really loves to come to Sebring and just think it's a neat place to be. So I want to thank Dan again for what he's done. Also, next weekend, not this weekend, the following weekend is our Juneteenth weekend. Don't forget they're having a blessing of the new Shannon Park on the 16th, I believe, at 11:30. And then we'll have a parade also the following weekend. So Juneteenth celebration coming up, and please participate where you can in that. So, and that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mrs. Bendel?
Yes, I do have some reports. I'm going to the Avon Park Chamber of Commerce, even though that isn't a city event, just to get to know the county better and see how we work together. And that was a lovely event. And then I had the pleasure of taking the firehouse tour. Bobby Border and his group were wonderful. I'm the liaison to the fire people and to the police, and I think that's a great honor. And we can be very, very proud of our fire people. Is that the way you say it? I'm not sure.
Firefighters.
The firefighters.
There you go.
They keep a very tight ship over there. When they're not out fighting fires, they are taking care of the property, doing painting, repairs. They have a new house there. It's not a new house, but a older home that's adjacent that they have purchased and would like to do a lot of work themselves to fix up. But it was wonderful. So thank you very much, Bobby. Then I took a tour with Mr. Bogus, who's amazing, for the diesel plant. And I've lived here a good portion of my life, grew up here, and I'd never been to the diesel plant. So that was very informative. And then I've been talking a lot with the downtown merchants and getting their feel for what we should do downtown. And then again, I went on another day tour with Scott and Mr. Bogus, touring all the utilities. And I really think at my age, it's really interesting how you have a good time looking at a sewer plant. I mean, it was very, very informative. And then I went with Leonard. I didn't go with Leonard, but I met him there at the Military Sea Services Museum. You know, we often forget that many people laid down their lives for the freedoms we have here in this country and to live in a beautiful place like this. So that was extremely touching and wonderful to go into the museum. So I highly recommend you go. And that's all for my reports. Oh, I did want to say that since I'm new on the city council, that while I appreciate some people's concerns that maybe I'm a little downtrodden, no, I don't know. But I do want to say that everyone here, including Scott, Kathy, Mayor Shoup, everybody has been, and Bob Swain, excuse me, everybody has been most kind and helpful to me and not condescending in any way. And I can stick up for myself, but I appreciate all sympathy. But they have been wonderful. But I do have another concern about the burlesque issue, but I thought we would wait till the end of the agenda so we make sure that we get the business done.
Okay, that would be
So-
fine. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. Well, the next time you want to really charge up, I'll invite you over to the porch. We'll have a couple of sweet teas and watch the grass grow.
Hey,
How's that sound?
at the rate of all the meetings I'm going to, that would be a treat.
Folks, I failed to mention item number 5, especially with this large audience this evening, which is to announce business from the audience procedure. I already have 3 request forms from our city council. If there is something you would like to discuss with this council this evening that is not on the agenda, that is not on the consent agenda or anywhere else on the agenda, I would ask you to please come up and fill out a request form, and I will take them in the order that I received them. Okay? Mrs. Haley has the forms here. You're more than welcome to please come up. I'll give you a few minutes for that if need be.
Oh, no, that's one. Uh-oh.
Yes.
I'm out of forms.
You're out of forms. See, we
Well,
usually only get 2 or 3.
Here,
Yeah, in a
sign,
month.
just do the back of this one, and then. I gave them to you in the wrong, let me give them to you right.
Sure. Absolutely. Just go ahead and add them on to however you want to do it.
That's the order I got it in.
Okay, great. Thank you very much
Austin
for your
has some on the
patience.
consent. Austin has some on the consent agenda.
You
Yeah,
said
I'm
you
gonna
had
give
something
you-
that's on the consent agenda. What item number would that be? Can I guess?
Huh?
Would it be item G?
Your name.
Collective
and then what you
bargaining
wanna speak to
contract with
council
AFSCME
about.
and Budget Amendment 137?
Austin Maddox for the record.
No, we're not ready for that yet. Is that the one that you want to
No,
talk
there's
about?
nothing in particular that I need to talk about on the agenda. I'd just like to speak on the consent
On the consent,
as a whole, correct?
Just put.
and which item on the consent agenda is
put
what I'm
two
asking you?
windows ish. Well,
Oh,
you're gonna
yes,
be able to,
okay.
you're gonna be able to
That's
talk
the one I
about when
just
she
mentioned.
speaks.
Sorry.
All right, let's do
So you
this.
don't need to- you don't need to do that.
We'll go ahead and remove
Yeah,
G
she'll-
from the
she'll do that.
consent agenda for
Okay.
further discussion. In the meantime, I'd ask council to go ahead and entertain a motion for items A through I, with the exclusion of item G as in George.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda and remove G for further discussion.
Okay?
Second.
And we have a second here. Any comments from the audience regarding the removal of item G and approving
That's all I
items
have.
A,
So
B,
just-
C, D, E, F, H, and I? Kathy, call the roll.
And I'm sorry, I did not hear a thing you said. So you said A through I, but removing G?
We are
Yes.
removing G for discussion.
Okay.
For the request of Captain Austin Maddox from the Sebring Fire Department.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
Okay, call the roll.
Bishop,
Yes.
Carlisle,
Yes.
Mendel,
Here, yes.
Detman.
Yes. Okay, item G is the collective bargaining contract with AFSCME and the budget amendment number 137. Captain Maddox, you are on.
Thank you. Captain Maddox for the record. I'm also the president of the local union for the fire department. Not necessarily speaking on that. I just wanted to get up here and tell you all, and I know some of you I've spoke with quite a bit. Obviously, as a union president, I have to make a lot of calls. So sometimes you probably love seeing my name pop up on your phone. But I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for what you've done for the general employee and getting them up to speed and where they belong. And I would just like to say that I'd love to continue to see progress. I think y'all have done an amazing job over the last two contracts as far as the fire department goes, and we appreciate that. I know the county has just talked about a cost of living increase over on their side of town. So I know when that comes to fruition for us, I know you all will take the right steps to make everything right by us, but I appreciate everything that you have done, and I know a lot of my firefighters as well appreciate it. So I just wanted to make sure that was said.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Great, we appreciate that. And if you do feel like you need any additional conversation about that, Captain Maddox, feel free to contact our city administrator, and we can always take everything into consideration as we always do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming up. On item 9, old business, I see none, so we'll go into item 10, new business.
Don't
Item
we have to approve this?
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we have to approve item G as presented.
I make a motion we approve item G as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second on the floor. Does anybody have any comments about item G under the consent agenda? Mrs. Haley, call the roll.
Bishop,
Yes.
Carlisle,
Yes.
Mendel,
Yes.
Detman.
Yes. Okay, no business under item 9. If you go to item 10, you'll see new business. What we actually have here, folks, are 3 public hearings, each of which we will read to you, and we'll ask for your comments. And this is the purpose of a public meeting, is to get your input. That's why we're here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and declare this as a public hearing for ordinance number 1492. It's an applicant-initiated amendment to the official future land use map of the city of Sebring, Florida, amending 3 parcels of land. These parcels of land are listed, as you can see them up on the screen, totaling approximately 49.95 acres, located at 3297, 3301, and 3305 Gulfview Road, from county medium density residential to city low density residential. With that, I will turn it over to Ms. Riddell.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Swain?
Yes, we will send it back over to Mr. Swain, but while I have you, are you okay with opening items 10A and 10B at the same time, since they're in regard to the same property?
Actually, I would prefer it, and then what we will do is vote on those 2 items at the end separately.
Perfect.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you very much. 10A, Bob?
So proposed ordinance number 1492, which is agenda item 10A, is entitled An Ordinance of the City of Sebring, Florida, amending the City of Sebring Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map, 3 parcels of land totaling approximately 49.95 acres located at 3297, 3301, and 3305 Gulfview Road from county medium density residential to city low density residential, transmitting said amendment to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity for notification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Also for your consideration this evening, agenda item 10B is ordinance 1493, and it is entitled An Ordinance of the City of Sebring, Florida, changing the zoning classification of 3 parcels of land totaling approximately 49.95 acres located at 3297, 3301, and 3305 Gulfview Road from County Residential District R1 to City Single Family District R1, providing for severability, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much, Mr. Swain. Now we will turn that over to Ms. Riddell. If you'll please introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are and why you're here.
Thank you. My name is Dana Riddell. I'm a senior planner with the Central Florida Regional Planning Council. We provide technical assistance to the City of Sebring for planning and zoning items. Tonight, we have an applicant-initiated request for a zoning and future land use change on an existing golf course. I see we have a lot of members of the public here tonight, so I'll just start with the precursor in saying that this is an applicant-initiated request for a rezone and future land use change to allow residential uses on an existing golf course. However, this is a parcel that has been annexed from the county to the city, and all we're doing tonight is assigning city zoning and future land use. When it was located in the county, at any time, they could have stopped the golf course operations and begun construction of single-family residential homes due to the existing zoning and future land use. And tonight, as I mentioned, we're just assigning city zoning and future land use that would still allow them to construct single-family homes, but less of them. So, on our first slide, we have an image of the property. It's owned by Harder Hall Golf Club, LLC, and the agent representing the case is Rick Whidden, who I believe is here tonight. Haven't seen him yet? He's not. Okay, we have Jeff Kennedy here tonight on behalf of the applicant. The parcel is located at 3297, 3301, and 3305 Gulfview Road. We have that large parcel outlined in yellow and 2 lots that are adjacent to that large parcel. The request is to amend the future land use from county medium density residential to city low density residential, and also to amend the zoning from county R1 to city R1. On the next slide, we showed the existing future land use, which is county medium density residential, which allows 8 dwelling units per acre. And we'll go over density a little bit further, but on the proposed future land use, we're proposing city low density residential, which allows 5 dwelling units per acre. The existing zoning is county R1 residential district, which again relies on the county future land use at a density of 8 dwelling units per acre. But the proposed zoning is city R1, single family residential, which decreases the maximum density to 4.3 dwelling units per acre. On our next slide, we show some of our surrounding uses. We know that to the north and northeast, there is an existing golf course with a residential zoning, city zoning, and a mixed use zoning. Also to the north and northwest, we have some public uses, public zoning, more golf courses, and single-family residential homes. Then on all the other remaining sides, the west, southwest, south, southeast, and east, we have county zoning of R1 with existing uses of single-family residential homes. So this is consistent with the nature of the area. On the next slide, we break down the density. So under the existing future land use in the county, they'd be able to build 399 dwelling units on the subject property. Under the city low-density residential future land use, they'd be able to build 249 dwelling units, which is a decrease of 150 dwelling units. So the future land use is the underlying density, right? But then in the city, the zoning also restricts the density, and it restricts it even further from 5 dwelling units per acre to 4.3 dwelling units per acre, bringing the total allowable density on these properties to 214 dwelling units. So this is an overall decrease from county zoning to city zoning of 185 dwelling units. On the next slide, we go over public facilities and service to determine if we have enough infrastructure to service this type of development. In terms of public water, public potable water, city drinking water is in close proximity to the subject parcel and will be required for future development.
Okay.
The city does have capacity for these connections, as well as wastewater. It is also in close proximity, and the city does have capacity. In terms of solid waste, the parcels will be served by a city-approved refuse collector. On the next slide, we move on to our transportation. The subject parcels are adjacent to 2 roads, Gulfview Road and Medina Way. And the future land use and zoning changes decrease the total amount of expected traffic because they could have built more homes, but now they will build less. However, at the time of platting, any transportation impacts will be reviewed at the time of development, so if any improvements are needed, they will be made at that time. Also, Highlands County School Board has confirmed capacity for at least 200 single-family dwelling units. And we mentioned that they could construct up to 214 dwelling units on the parcel, but with the streets and the infrastructure, they will not get 214 parcels. They will come in under that. In terms of recreation and open space, the city meets their level of service requirements for recreation and open space. However, there will be a minimum dedication of land for open space, which is 30% for the subject development, and that will be through front yards, backyards, and potential parks or recreation areas as proposed by the developer at the time of development. And again, right now, this isn't a planned unit development or a planned development, so we're just talking generalities, and we don't have an exact plan of the exact location of the park or anything of that nature. So on the next slide, we ask the question, is this compatible with our comprehensive plan, and is the zoning compatible? So first of all, assigning city future land use and zoning brings it into consistency with the Sebring land development regulations so that they can be developed at all. So that's the first step to compatibility. Then the proposed zoning classification of R1 is compatible and consistent with the future land use that is proposed of low density residential. That's the second step to compatibility. Then we ask if it meets certain goals and objectives of our comprehensive plan. And we've called out 2 different policies that they meet. Policy 2.1 of the future land use element, promoting new development and redevelopment to be located where public facilities are available to avoid urban sprawl, meaning they're developing where water and wastewater is available and solid waste is available, schools are available. So it meets that objective. Then it also targets goal 1 of the housing element to preserve and improve the quality of neighborhoods and provide a sufficient supply and variety of affordable, decent, safe, and sanitary housing for the present and future needs of the city of Sebring. Housing is in need and high demand in Highlands County as a whole and in the city of Sebring, so it does meet goal 1 of the housing element. Past action includes unanimous approval on May 10th from the Planning and Zoning Board to approve the future land use map amendment and rezoning. And again, we had unanimous approval on May 17th, 2022 by the City Council for ordinances 1492 and 1493 on first reading. And that wraps up my presentation. I'll send it back to council.
Thank you very much. You always do a very thorough job.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And as she just mentioned, that both these ordinances were first read and voted upon unanimously on May 17th. So tonight would be your second and final reading. Public comments, inputs, and questions. This is your time on either of these two ordinances that we just went over. Any comments, questions, concerns, anything at all? Public hearing. I don't see anybody jumping up, so if I don't, I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn the public hearing, and then we'll go on to discussion up here on the dais. Last call. Anyone else have any comments, questions, or concerns on items, on ordinance number 1492 or 1493? Having none, I'll close the public hearing. Okay, council members, questions, comments, concerns? Let's start to my left this time, Ms. Mendel.
Well, I just wondered, what is the next step then?
That's a good question. So after the ordinances are approved, the zoning and future land use will become official, and it will be upon the developer's discretion as to when they come in and they apply for platting. That platting will be what breaks up the lots. During that platting process, they'll have to install any improvements like water, wastewater, new roads, anything like that. And that will come again before city council for final approval.
Thank you.
Comments, concerns, Mr. Carlisle, Mr. Bishop?
I think Ms. Riddell does a great job explaining it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys have really hung in there with this. This is a real nice, it looks like a really, really nice project, and I can't wait to see it. The first shovel, the first bit of ground to be turned here. So with that, I think I can see if there's anyone here that would like to make a motion to pass ordinance 1492 standalone first.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 1492 on second and final reading as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Kathy, call the roll.
Bishop,
Yes.
Carlisle,
Yes.
Mendel,
Yes.
Detman.
Yes. Ordinance number 1493, need to take a vote on that as well. Any comments? Concerns? I entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 1493 on second and final reading as presented.
And I second it.
And Ms. Mendel seconds it. Ms. Carlisle, you're very good at making motions. I
know,
really
he's so-
appreciate that.
I
That
got
seems
a
like
team
it's your
down here.
job
I'll take
from
it.
now on.
He's emotional.
Until you become council president, then you can't do
Then I
that.
can't do it no more.
All
All
right.
right. I've got a motion by Mr. Carlisle, a second by Ms. Mendel. Kathleen, or Mrs. Haley, please call the roll.
Bishop,
Yes.
Carlisle,
Yes.
Mendel,
Yes.
Detman.
Yes. Item 10C, our longtime former city councilman, and in my eyes, a highly esteemed, longtime mayor of the city of Sebring, Mr. George Hensley, would like to share his thoughts, his concerns, citizens' concerns, and positive thoughts about our city pier waterfront development project. And George, and I should say, Your Excellency, I would like to personally thank you for the amount of work you put into this. I read every single letter on every single page, and I know that individually we have all met with you down at the pier, and I want to thank you very much for the hard work you put into this, and hopefully we can move forward because I think it's a great product.
Thank you very much, Tom, and I appreciate everybody, all of you individually meeting with me relating to this. And I guess the first issue is, why in the world I even did this to start with, you know? So I need to give you a little bit of background because, as you know, the City Council and the CRA for some periods of time have been working on a plan for the waterfront redevelopment. And they presented a plan in February to have this plan of the Kimley Foreign consultant firm relating to that. And that was the plan that was in place, that was going to be, looked like it was going to be done going forward. And there was positive comments from the council about that. If I recall, if I use the right words, you approved the CRA to proceed to do the design and engineering and bring back cost to you about that. And so essentially at that point, I understood that the plan was as it was presented. So I started thinking about that and realized that even though I had attended some of the meetings relating to the discussion about all of that, I'm not sure that our citizens overall really had the concept in mind about it. And I felt like that I didn't understand all of it as well, and I had some concerns that if you were at those meetings, you would have heard some individual citizens get up and express or ask some questions of the CRA or say what they're concerned about. And I thought it would be a good idea if I could just bring that sort of into a focus, what I call the big picture, so that anyone that might now take a look at that would get a feeling for all of those concerns that have been expressed in some concise picture, and including the city council and the CRA, to kind of bring it into focus and let's really examine this. Of course, since then, there have been some changes in the concept about it, so my comments about the concerns were somewhat set aside, but I did want to start out by saying thank you all for meeting with me, and I do apologize for something. It was kind of hokey for me to ask you guys to take my water cooler and walk me from the public library parking lot down to the beach.
I didn't do it, remember that.
Tom couldn't do that. I had to carry my own. It was a little bit hokey, I'll have to admit, but there was a method in my madness in that I'm sure you realized, and we're kind of smiling about it, is okay, he's trying to show me what would happen if we parked our vehicle up by the library, which was the original plan, and tried to walk down to the beach carrying umbrellas and coolers and picnic baskets and dragging 3 kids in a stroller or whatever, how difficult that might be going down the hill and back up. So anyway, I apologize for that. You all were very kind and nobody really fussed at me about it. So then I began to think about, okay, if there are concerns that I have, are there also positive ideas about it? Instead of just getting up and saying, I have a feeling about this, and I have a feeling about that. And I was hoping that my whole concept would be to bring to your attention to take a look at the plan and see if we could do it better. And could do it for less money, but also include the citizen input. And you'll recall we had a citizen input. We all went down to the Civic Center and put colored dots on the board expressing what we really wanted for the park. So I didn't want to take away from the Kimley Horn plan of what the citizens, the CRA, and the council really wanted to have end up at that park. But I wanted to approach it in a little different manner. So my initial objective was to bring together the many concerns and the discussions from the several meetings, and to see if we could perhaps do this at a lower cost, but at the same time, keep the wish list, and I'm calling the wish list of the citizens, brought to the focus that was done at the initial concept of the plan as it was being developed. So I had a list of concerns with the Kimley Horn plan and the cost, and at the February meeting of the City Council, which I enumerated that you approved for them to proceed at least with the design. So I've listed those concerns on my comment sections in pages 1 through 6. I'm not going to go through those and talk about them in detail, but I do want to list them because I think it listed what those concerns were. So I'm just gonna kind of call them what they are without
Absolutely.
enumerating on it, which you could spend a lot of time without. The first included the cost of the funding, the phased construction steps, the seawall changes, the splash pad in the sand game area, new restrooms, new picnic pavilions, a revised parking plan, raise the civic center, an expanded green space, trees, maintenance, and the historic homes. There's a lot of that, those concerns that we're talking about, that were discussed at one time or another over the meetings with the CRA and the council and the citizens. So I just listed those, but you can read them, they're in my report, and ask any questions or comments about them that you desire. But I want to leave now, because currently, I understand currently that the plan that has presented by the Kimberly Horn and the CRA at the February meeting has now been set aside for any number of reasons. We don't need to enumerate that. So that's changed. While I have the concerns, it's changed the focus of this whole concept. Certainly already I've noted that there are some recent activities and decisions that have occurred since that February meeting in order to make the document presented tonight more current. And so I'm trying to bring that into current focus. However, I still think that my remarks still have a bearing on any new design and development of the park. I'm just a citizen that have a concern about this. And I just think, but still, you're gonna be looking at a new design of some sort. We'll talk about mine later, but anyway, you're gonna be looking at a new design for this park and plans for that. And I just thought that my remarks might have some bearing on really a floor or things to talk about from those that would be helpful to you. Well, I wasn't really requested to write these concerns up and any positive comments, or to draw up any kind of positive optional plan. So I again want to say thank you for allowing me to be present and to present it and to discuss all this with the CRA board members and their board meeting. They asked me to come to the board meeting, and I was glad about that. And so I'm about to talk to you more then about where we are now and what I think would be a good idea, okay, just a good idea. It's all worth what it costs. Bottom line is, that's it. So, starting on page 6 of the plan, the document that you have before you, I have a heading that says, is there a better way to address the desired improvements to our beautiful lakefront park and at a lower cost? So at this point, I think we can go. I'm not sure if there's a screen picture of that up there about to be. A screen that takes a look at this and looks at the positive responses is what I identify as a better plan. So I know that this is kind of hard to understand, but if you look at this, what I essentially have done is keep the buildings, the restrooms, the parking lots as they are now. And one of the things that I have done with this is we've had a lot of talk about the Civic Center, and at the last city council meeting, there was an expression, yeah, we can have another Civic Center at another place. I think the overall idea was, let's go ahead and remove the Civic Center. We're keeping the library, that was an issue at one point. So my idea is we have, and dealing with specifically with parking, there currently is a parking lot up by the library. There's a tier level parking lot that goes in front of the library and the Civic Center. And with that, there's a drive-through of a drop-off place in front of the Lakeside Theater. And my idea then, again, with kind of following the Kimberly Horn plan, is to take out the Civic Center and make that a lower parking lot. The Kimberly Horn plan, and I've got to draw on this, is to make all of that green space. So my idea was to take out that lower level parking lot. Started like at the front of the Civic Center to the beach going west. If you take out all of that flat area of parking, you make that up, at least partly, by making that Civic Center pad area a new parking lot.
About how
So-
many
so, yeah.
spaces, about how many spaces might that entail,
Well,
George?
I don't know. My engineer friend that drew this up, drew what, about 12 spaces? I'm not sure. That's gotta be worked out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be more than that
Yeah,
too, though.
I'm sure it can be, but
Yeah.
the idea, if you recall from the Kimley Horn plan, the parking lot was cut off about the front of the library,
Yes.
front door, and all the rest of that was removed. And then the parking was probably one of the biggest issues that people were really concerned about. The idea is that people going down there, they go down for two reasons. They wanna go to the beach, or they wanna go to the art museum, or
Or
they
the
wanna go
theater.
to the Lakeside Theater, basically is what that's all about. So there was gonna be a long walk, and people of my age had that to be a challenge sometimes. So anyway, I'm making another parking lot, and you can see that I've drawn up the area there that's identified, I think, number 6, maybe, or 9, whatever it is. The green space, that's green space. My idea was to try to, let's make this, what I'm calling the North Beach, which is where we are right now, with all the big picnic pavilions and all, and the South Beach sort of flow together. And you end up again with the Kimley Horn plan of green space. And so that's that part. The other plan that I had was, why are we taking out 5 very structurally sound picnic pavilions and tearing them out and moving them up on what was gonna be called what we call Rotary Park? And the plan from Kimley Horn put in 3 pavilions, a splash pad, and a sand game area for volleyball and that sort of thing. Well, let's keep those pavilions, save that cost, fix them up, no question about that. And so that was that. The other issue in the Kimley Horn plan was to raise the existing restroom, move it closer to what we call Rotary Park right now, up by those pavilions. And then also to take the gym set playground that's down there now, which seems to me to be in very good structural condition. Maybe needs a little paint, but it's in good condition. Tear that out, and it was gonna be moved. So I'm saying, let's keep all of those and just fix them in the way that needs to be done. So that really shows up here on the pavilions are here, they're 50 Middle Road. And the restroom, I think, is number 12. I really have a copy of that, I'll just look at this, so I can read it along with it. Why am I struggling with that? Number 5 is the existing restroom, and the art building is there. And number 12 happens to be the playground area that exists right now. And number 6 are the existing picnic pavilions. So that would stay. And then, because Kimley Horn, and I think a lot of people felt like the splash pad would be fun, and the sand game, let's have volleyball games and so on. Let's move that into an area where the retention pond is now, and you'll know it's right in the middle of the park. Well, that retention pond is probably the biggest issue going forward, whatever you're gonna do down there.
Yep.
I have talked to an engineer friend of mine, and he said, hey, do what you wanna do, but, you just gotta pay for it, and basically relocate that. Kimley Horn in their plan actually drew that down at the end on the southwest corner, of the, number 14. I kinda drew that in there, because that's where they had it. So the idea was, well, if they were gonna consider putting it there must have been some way to make that happen. I don't know, that's an expensive thing, a lot of water comes off that hill. So the retention pond is critical, or the retention of water is critical to the whole plan, whether it's mine or anybody else's that does it. But the idea again, if we can get rid of that retention pond and fill it in, that could be that can be a part of the splash pad area. If you still want to play splash pad, if you want a volleyball court, you put that there, is my idea. So that, and then the next thing that I did that they did not do, if you're looking further to the south side of the park, you'll see number 10 and 11. There's no restroom there now. However, there is a house there. And that house is planned to be raised. So my thought again, not an engineer, but my thought is you got water and sewer there already. So either now or sometime, you're gonna need a restroom down in that area. It's a long walk from that south beach, the southwest corner of the beach, up to the restroom and the splash pad area and the picnic area, which is all the way on the north end of the park. So why don't we go ahead and put in some pavilions, picnic pavilions down on the south end. And if you remove that parking lot and made it sort of then the whole property flows together, you know, which is your desire to allow the whole space to be identified and promoted as a beach area. Other concerns that was raised had to do with some of the unsavory activities that go on down at the park. One of the thoughts in my, again, was to, if we do raise the civic center, that opens up the seeing, I want to say the word seeing, of all of that from the parking lot, the second level parking lot, the floor level parking lot, and also, and I think the city's already working on this, by the way, for whatever decision was made, put in, you know, light the place up, put in cameras, so that we kind of dispel some of the problems that may be going on there. So that's the big picture of my design. And while Gimlet Horn, you know, the numbers have bounced all over the place on the wall, but other plans that they have done similar to this have been in the $14 to $20 million range, and I don't think that was disputed by many people. So what do I know? I think you can do this by doing a lot of keeping what we've got for $2 million or less. That's a dartboard that I threw at, and that's where it came up, you know. So I have no idea. Civic Center, I do want to touch on. And Tom, I think you were commenting about the fact that we really do need a civic center, and I think the general consensus of council, the last meeting I attended, said, well, we can move that over to the Women's Club building at Veterans Beach. Like Mark Stewart, I said, take a look at the building and said it would accommodate about 140 people or so. He indicated, I put in, I thought under $150,000, I think he said $120,000, $30,000 to renovate that building, to do that. So this is my overall thoughts. Like I say, I'm not an engineer, not a designer, but you know, if you're trying to design your home, you try to put it out there and do what, you know, try to do the best you could with it. You know, here I am with something in my hand. You can say, thank you, Mr. Hensley, where's the nearest waste dumpster? You know, you can do that. Or you can say, okay, let's take a look at this. Let's get somebody that really knows what they're doing and take a look at it. So that's where I am. I'll be glad to answer any questions or comment about where this ended up. I think, frankly, I do want to go to page 8 of my dissertation, which I want to read, and I think you're going to put that up there because I kind of summarized the whole idea of this in these 13 points about why this works. At least I think it works. It reduces the cost of engineering, design, and construction. It provides the park enhancements included in the Gimlet Horn plan. It utilizes the existing structures with upgrades. It provides new additional restroom and picnic facilities for the South Beach front and green space events that may take place there. Provides adequate parking with reasonable access to all areas, including the beachfront, the pier, HLT, Lakeside Theater, the Historic Society Archives and the Art Museum, which are the Historic Society Archives, for most people know, are in the basement of the current library. It provides an aesthetic, open view of the park from the street and the parking areas. I think that was one of the ideas that the CRA really had, is they want to have people to be able to look down at this park and realize what a beautiful space it is. And it's inviting us to come when we come to Sebring, or citizens to come to this park and enjoy it, because it's all open, you can see down to it. So it gives that aesthetic view. I think it reduces the unacceptable activities in the area at night by having an open viewing and added lighting. It reducing the funding costs by not requiring additional financing and higher annual payments. And I know the public probably knows, if they are aware, that you approved for the CRA to proceed with a borrowing of $6 million for their projects. Not necessarily this project, but their CRA projects. And so they're proceeding, I think, to finalize that loan, so that it allows the CRA to, whatever funds they're going to use for this park, remaining funds can be used for other projects. And I think their concept is, we need to get together with the city, not putting words in their mouth, but if I understand, we need to get together with the city and decide what we're gonna pay for, what the city's gonna pay for in developing this park. It reduces the maintenance cost of the city. It allows the Historic Society and the Highlands Art League to continue use of the Weigel and Pavilion houses. And it allows continued access to the archives and historic archives. It continues to acknowledge the memory of Jack Stroop for the area. You know, there was some concern about, we're gonna tear down that building that was the Jack Stroop Civic Center. My thinking is, why don't we just make the whole park the Jack Stroop Memorial Park? You know, it's bigger than a building. That's just my thoughts, okay? So it continues to acknowledge his memory. There was some discussion in the Kimley Forum plan originally to have an outfitter who would provide water toys, leasing of certain types of water craft there. And so that was originally designed to be one of the historic buildings. But if you really want that, and you build this restroom, if you build a restroom on the south end of the park, you can add a chunk of that building, or add on to that building, or the outfitter can add on to that building perhaps, and have his sales space and storage for his facilities. So all of that kind of falls together in one big idea for me. I appreciate everybody's time and listening, and whatever decisions you all and you and the city CRA folks make about this, I'm sure it will be done in the best interest of our community, and I applaud you for that.
Don't go away.
Don't go, okay, all right.
You haven't mentioned about the trees that are down there.
Yeah.
That was a big deal when you and I spoke about it. We all already had the canopy trees down there, kept trimmed nicely and fit into the common area along with the picnic areas. It's a no-brainer. Not only do we save the trees, but we're not incurring additional costs of get rid of the trees, purchasing palm trees. We've got palm trees all over. Those are nice, beautiful oaks. And I think you and I kind of agreed on that, how nice they are if we were to keep them in a canopy over the areas where most people hang out.
I think that, I understand that the city's already gone down and done some trimming of the trees down there, just as an initial step.
And the city is already is in the process, if not already close to renovating the restroom that's there right now.
I understand that.
Yep.
Yep. So I've kind of tried to bring it up to date with what's going on already and the decision that had been made to not go forward with the Kimley Horn plan as originally presented. but let's keep the ideas there,
Yep.
good ideas there from the citizens, from the plan designer to do a little different job.
I give you 5 stars, George. I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I absolutely think that that's a wonderful plan. Now, naturally, if it doesn't fly, it's probably because it makes too much sense.
Well, it's worth what it costs. I
It
want
is.
to tell you that. It's just an idea that I had.
No, I think you did a wonderful job. On behalf of this, on behalf of this group up here, I really do want to thank you very much. Ms. Bendel, you have a comment?
I do. Thank you so much. I just enjoyed going down there with you and seeing your ideas, and they really were so spot on, I thought. Now, I'm not giving up on keeping the Civic Center quite yet, but you brought up an idea you had that I haven't heard anybody say anything about. And if we whacked off the end of the Civic Center and took it out and left the bathrooms,
The north end section.
yeah, that was a great idea. Tell them.
Well, she and I did talk about that. I said, we're going to do the Civic Center as it exists right now. The north end has restrooms. There's also a meeting room in there that really needs to, if you're going to have that, you need to fix it up into a nice meeting room. And then there's a sort of a serving kitchen. If you wanted to keep some of that, you take away the parts of the Civic Center down to that and restructure that in for additional restrooms, by the way, and for a nice meeting room that could accommodate maybe 30 people or 40 people or so into a nice meeting room with big audio visual equipment, that sort of thing. The city could lease out. Sure, that's a possibility as well. Okay.
You know, one thing, Sunday afternoon, my husband and I drove by the women's club, and the boats they took all the parking places that I could see. You know, that could be a real problem, the women's club. I love the idea of if the Civic Center was gone, you could see the lake. I love that idea, but then I really love the idea of keeping that Civic Center. So I don't know, but I think this is such a great plan.
Well, in response to your comment there, I understand exactly what you're saying, but I want you to think about this for half a second. All of those folks that walk to the Highlands Little Theater, having that additional parking there is worth its weight in gold. It is just worth its weight in gold.
It's something to
just
consider.
my comment.
Yeah.
Take away that flat area parking. You've got to replace that ability someplace, and that was my idea.
I do have a request here from our former, maybe even former CRA director, Pete Pollard, would like to address us this evening regarding the Waterfront District project. Don't go too far, George. You're the one with all the answers.
He doesn't have to answer.
I don't have the
Alrighty.
answers or the
Good deal.
questions.
I was asked by our board to come down and listen to the presentation.
Great.
I'm on the board of directors of the Highlands Lakeside Theater. The biggest issue that we face
Just speak up a little bit. They can't hear you.
The biggest issue that we face, let me project.
Think about being on stage.
That's what I said.
All right.
I'll project. The biggest issue that we face as an organization with the plans that are being, various plans that are being considered is the parking issue.
Yeah.
Not the least of which is the availability in close proximity to the buildings down at that end of the pier area for handicap parking.
Yes.
The Kimley Horn plan called for a driveway and turnaround, roundabout, at the bottom of the hill at the entrance to the theater. To make that work, it had to be a two-way road. It had to be wide enough, and you had to have enough access, not only for vehicles to go around and come out while other vehicles come in, but also for deliveries down there.
Oh, yeah.
We have large lumber trucks that pull in there to make deliveries to the theater, for example. This proposal and keeping some of that parking in would allow the ultimate plan, to leave the driveway in place right now and channel the traffic out the way it's being channeled now.
Mm-hmm.
Which would make things much simpler, would also save a multitude of parking spaces at the top of the hill right behind the library. which we would lose if they had to make a two-way road through there. So we applaud Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely.
No reflection on Mr. Mayor. We do appreciate your continued reconsideration of the plan.
Peter, if you go back to serving food as you had in the past, some very nice meals I've had there in my days, you're going to need that same room, if you will, for the food distribution trucks to get in there and get out as well.
That isn't going to happen.
You're not
Tom,
planning on
I'm
serving
sorry.
food anymore.
He said you need to go on a diet is what he's saying.
Just wine.
No, it's been a while since you've been down there, Tom.
Yes, it has.
The interior of the theater is no longer situated to serve meals. We have regular theater seating in there now.
Okay.
So it will not become, many of us for years, we liked the dinner theater.
Yes.
People enjoyed it. A lot of people enjoyed the dinner and left before the play. So we're happy now that we are a theater and not a restaurant.
Okay.
So, but
Great.
point well taken. We
Thank
do
you.
have large delivery trucks though that make deliveries
Sure.
down there on a regular basis, and we'd appreciate as much access as possible.
Absolutely.
And the parking issue is very critical to us.
Yep. Mr. Mayor?
I did not point out relating to the seawall, and I need to add that because in the Kimley Horn plan, and I specifically asked them at the time, are you gonna be tearing out that seawall and moving it back? And the answer was yes. And we're not, my plan does not tear that out. The seawall that's there is in very good condition. There's a cap on it that's wide enough for a walking area, plus you could put benches there as well. If there's a desire to put a seawall along the South Beach area, that's another issue of whether to do that or not. But my idea is to not spend the money or try to get permitted to redo that seawall.
Excellent. Excellent. Any additional members have some comments, concerns? Mr. Mayor?
No, you brought up the, kind of the rehabilitation of the park, and just to take up a little more time, but I think we need to thank the city, from every single department that we had. If you've been down to the park in the last 2 weeks,
Amazing.
there's a lot of stuff that had kind of been playing, and George, you just kind of, it really kind of spurred on some more, but we got to thank Scott, because under his direction, we have Public Works and Toby, that crew was down there, trimmed up all the trees, did a lot of shrubbing, did a lot of cleaning out some bushes and that stuff, and really opened it up. And we had the fire department down there fixing the buoys that were out there, the police department and an RIT. We're down there. There's now 11 cameras, 12 cameras. Paul? There'll be 16 cameras when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
The bathrooms have been, all except for the countertops, which Public Works is working on, will be concrete countertops. So the old ones are in there, but every single fixture in each one of those bathrooms has been new fixtures put in there, and they're contactless fixtures. Touchless fixtures. Thank you. And but the paint's been stripped. The floors have been redone. It's beautiful. We opened it up in time for the triathlon, which I really think, every city department, the water department, the sewer department, everybody had a part to play in that. So it's really a good city effort to make it livable again. We had a lot of deferred maintenance on that. The lighting, you talk about the lighting, if you go down there now, we're getting complaints from the fountainhead because from 8 through 11, you can see right through those houses now with them on it. All those lights there's new LED space lights.
Right.
And all the antique lights have LEDs, so it is like, you go down there at night and it is wide open. And hopefully this would save the vandalism, but it's been finished on Saturday and opened up, and guess what happened yesterday? Somebody in one of the bathrooms wrote some pretty foul literature in there, so thank God they did it out of deodorant, so it came off pretty quick. At least we're getting a higher class of vandalism. But I really want to. These guys, they worked hard. They did step hard.
Is Toby here this evening?
I don't think Toby's here, but I want to thank the whole city, because it was every single department that had got involved in some way or another. So it was really, and you go down there at night. You need to go down there at night to look at that. So the park is technically closed from dawn to dusk, but there is no more dawn or dusk down there. It's wide open sunshine.
So folks, from here, we'll all adjourn and we'll go down to the Civic Center.
There we
How's
go.
that?
Hopefully we're out before dark. So.
Yes, we'll be up before dark, I can guarantee you that. Mr. Carlisle?
Well, I want to say that Little Sebring is being watched very close. I was in Lowe's Sunday, and I heard somebody say, "There's Councilman Carlisle." This man was from Pennsylvania.
You want your autograph?
No.
All right.
He, when they're going to retire, and they're going to retire to Sebring. They've already bought a home here, and he said he'd done a lot of research, and Sebring was very interesting to him.
Okay.
And he's wanting to see the growth that we've talked about, you know. And the only thing he said about the water park really was he would like to see more beach, more beach. He's got a teenage daughter, and she had to go to the coast to get a big enough beach.
Yep.
But that was the thing, you know. So people talk about, are we going to bring people to Sebring with the things we're doing? Yes, we're going to bring people to Sebring.
Sure.
People are, they want to come to a place like this, and they want to see it grow. And he mentioned he'd like to see some, because they have bought a home downtown Sebring, they're restoring it.
Right.
And they would like to be able to walk downtown to a restaurant or something like that. And so that's something that I would like to see happen as well. So Sebring is being watched.
Good deal. I hope so. Mr. Bishop?
No, I think we're all appreciative of the time that Mr. Hensley put in. I mean, I enjoyed
Absolutely.
our time down there. I didn't carry that cooler all
Neither
the way
did I.
from the.
I said, George, there's two
from the
of us.
library.
You take one water, and I'll take the other water.
Yeah.
And we walk down. I wasn't going to fall for that. It's a good try, sir.
But he brings up some valid points. I think it's all
Yeah.
things that we've kind of, thought about in the throughout this whole process, and
Yep.
it's, I appreciate that he brought it all to light for us.
And then maybe once we're all done, let's call it all done, there's no period at the end of that sentence, no end of thought, because if there are some additional things that need to be done, that's when we can readdress that with the CRA and the city as partners or otherwise. So, once again, thank you, Mr. Hensley. And I did see from agenda request from Mr. Tom Mendel, he wanted to speak on the Waterfront project. I can move you into this since this is the topic. Tom, if you'd like to come up. Mr. Tom Mendel. He has the same last name as you do.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
How long have you been married?
52 long years.
Wow.
Are they gonna ask for input?
Okay, Tom, be careful now.
My name is Tom Mendel, and I appreciate this opportunity. So my concern, Mr. Hensley, I appreciate your project and what you're showing. Here's what my concern is the process. I don't understand the process. We've gone for close to a year talking about this previous plan with a huge estimate, and repeatedly has been asked, how are we going to fund for this? How's it going to be? What's the estimated cost? How's it going to be funded? Ever since the first town hall meeting on that, almost a year ago. And it was never addressed. We finally addressed on February 15th what the cost of the project was, between $14 to $26 million. Then the city council approved $6.3 million for phase 1. Then the master plan didn't show the city project, the waterfront project, but then on the first reading, then finally it was approved. Then it was asked about the funding, and there was nothing in there about the funding. Lo and behold, on April 5th, the second reading, and the project was approved, and there was still nothing in there on the funding. This is April 5th, second reading of the master plan. Then lo and behold, on April 15th, 10 days later, after the master plan was approved, there was a letter from the financial institution approving a $6 million loan. Why couldn't that loan have been put in the master plan? The master plan, I'm sorry, from a financial perspective, isn't worth the paper it's written on. It couldn't even plan out 10 days. So all this, what I'm saying is, we spent over $150,000 with an architect. We spent countless CRA meetings and hours, countless city council meetings, countless public meetings on it. So with this new plan, I hope there's a better process. We need to understand what the cost of the job is in total before it moves forward.
Right.
And we need to understand how it's going to be funded.
Okay.
And right now, the CRA has approved the $6.3 million. Is that still approved for them? Or can they use their current $6 million on this new plan, and maybe the new plan's gonna cost $4 million? You don't know, I don't know.
They can, correct, Mr. Lydell?
And
Yes.
so, it seems to me that ought to be rescinded. If you only have $6 million loan, that you ought to rescind that $6.3 million approval. Because you shouldn't be using all the loan just for a city water project when there's $2.5 million of other projects in the plan.
Or at least be earmarked.
That's right. And so my concern is with the process, that you understand what the total cost of the project is, you understand how much of the loan is going to be applied to this project, so they don't consume all $6 million just for a waterfront project.
Well, I hope it's more CRA money than city money then. Let me just say
would be
that,
nice.
for
But
whatever
still,
it's worth.
It's only a $6
Sure.
million.
And I'm
of
sure-
that $6 million, $950,000 is paying off a previous loan.
Exactly. And
So
I think
there's
when
only
we-
$5 million available.
There's still 6 million.
Okay,
They still had $1
6
million in the bank.
Sure.
Okay.
And I think when we get to that point, Tom, I said, I think we'll get to exactly where you'd like to be with that.
That would be
Because then
wonderful.
we'll all be comfortable.
Okay, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I think I'm gonna just say something about the
sure.
plan, is because we explained this before, that plan is a wish list.
Yes.
It's not a budgeting tool.
I understand that.
It's a CRA, it's a 20-year plan for the CRA, and they have to put every single project in that plan.
Not a problem.
But they don't have to show the funding, the CRA has to come back then to the city council once they have those plans in place and get approval for that, final approval for that plan. So that master plan is just it's a wish list that they have to do every 20 years.
Right.
To say, these are all the projects we want.
Right.
But it has no funding or budgeting in it. It's just and I hate to make it real simple, but it's just a wish list. After the fact is when it comes in to say, okay, this is what the project is, this is what it's gonna cost us, this is what the funding is gonna be potentially, this is what it is, so that we kind of backed off the $20 million plan, and you know, a lot of us has discussed with George and that stuff, of how can we do it sensibly. And with that, and that's, I mean, we still have a lot of steps to go, but there's,
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
that process is already in place. It's not to the final to say they're gonna spend their $6 million in one single place. They still have to come back and say, this is the project we're gonna do, so.
Okay, but as,
And I have a strong suspicion that one of the city council persons up here will keep you apprised of every step as we move forward. Am I right?
I'll try.
Pillow talk.
It could happen.
Pillow talk. Thank you. Thank you. No, that's not a violation
That's
of
a different-
sunshine law. It would be if
It's a
she calls
different
me,
law.
though. Any other comments about the waterfront district, about Mr. Hensley's plan?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, please tell us who you are.
Okay, my name is Barbara Coughlin, and I've been here 52 years. Okay, George, I wanted to get with you, and I am so sorry I didn't get to call you, didn't have a chance to sit down with you, but you did everything, so there really wasn't anything more. I did have a little input on your park up there. We had a group that put together a vision for Sebring. And we wanted tech, and as Mr. Carlisle said, Sebring's on the map. I remember when Mary Rudisell used to come in my shoe store, and we would joke if we were ready to move the racetrack and put in the international airport. So Sebring, they were doing Spring Lake, they were doing all the highway development. So I've watched the growth in Sebring, and it's just been a really wonderful thing, because we have done controlled growth, and that's just beautiful to see. So many areas did not, and that's deplorable because they're mishmashed and the residents are on one income end of the scale or the other. A few things on your plan, George. What we had put together for Sebring was the Horseshoe Bank was going to be Apple featured and the Barnett was going to be Microsoft. One is square, one's got soft round, and we were going to work with Silicon Valley. That's been put on hold for the water park. But the water park itself, if you go where the Weigel House is and the Clover Lake next door, there's a sidewalk that is connecting that to the Magnolia. And we had a plan, but it was shot down so fast, we never went further with it. So it sounds like there's open room now that we understand this is more a wish list. It's not set in stone.
Correct.
Of exactly how it's going to be. And the plan that we had was called Diversity Park, because this is something that's a sensitive issue right now. I work with ESG, which is environmental and social and corporate governance. The other thing that we've worked very hard on is DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is more social. So in the interest of meeting, our population is diverse. We've always been founded not only on the international racetrack, but also retired missionaries. Sebring has had people from all over the world. During the summers, it would be dead. You could pull up and park wherever you wanted to. In the winter, there would be car tags from all over. Walking the streets today, I was really impressed how many out of state, and there are investors, quite a few investors that really want to come here. However, they want to be sure that we are the Hallmark type movie feel, that you can walk down the city streets and stroll and discover downtown Sebring and increase the value of our heritage tourism. In the interest of heritage tourism, we look at the Weigel House, for example. Gracie McCoy was one of my personal mentors when I was very young. Then we've got the Tommy McGuire with the pilots. I spoke with Mr. Pollard one day and I said, unfortunately, it's a white history. And we have a lot more history to Sebring. We've had Chinese, we've had Native Americans, etc. So our concept for Diversity Park before the water park came on March 8th, before we knew about it, was to have the three homes and have the Weigel as our founders, George Sebring, have Clover Lake for our others, Alice that brought the Chinese influence to Sebring, our Jewish folks with their agriculture, and quite a few other cultures. And then, because we were founded by an abolitionist state, George Sebring, Ohio had 0 slaves before the Civil War. We've looked at the census. And the thing is, for many, many years, this community in a Jim Crow law state had to have certain segregational boundaries. That fortunately is over, but they could not swim. It seemed that water was the biggest issue. They did not want white children swimming in water where black children had been. It's ugly. However, our plan for Magnolia was to, and we checked the roof and did certain things and looked, to put a very small Black History museum in there, a gift shop, a snack bar, so that the people there could just text their order or send a kid over or something, and bada bing, bada boom, there's your hot dog. There's your, may not be the most nutritious, it may not be a luxury meal, but people can get some food. Forgot your battery charger, we're gonna have a charger for A, B, C, whatever you need, something there. And rather than putting what we call boats, babies, and booze in that small area with a restaurant serving possibly alcohol, children swimming, and those types of things, to have, to do the balcony for Sunset Beach, sunset viewings by our VIPs, whether they're from school, whether they're from the theater or the charity, people that are really making a difference, such as many of you members on council have. So we had the diversity park included the Magnolia, and we were told that that's absolutely off the table, that so-and-so's restaurant's going in and so-and-so's business is going in. So if we could perhaps get back and look at diversity park, the marketing to bring the tour buses in that could park there, day trips, because Gracie was a businesswoman ahead of her time. Tommy McGuire, we have a female Air Corps now, young girls that are flying very low. From La La Land, the Taylor girl,
Can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yes.
You've gone way over the time limit we usually
sorry,
allot.
okay.
So what I'm gonna ask you respectfully, if you can just kind of wrap that up, because I have several people who'd like to talk to us tonight, and
You
we
have-
still have another public hearing, so go ahead and bring it
Yes.
to a
So the
conclusion
thing
for
is,
us.
George, I'm so glad, I would love to see your report, because I've written down on page 6 and page 8, I haven't seen your engineering report, so if I could get a copy and work with you.
Let me make one comment right quick with you, and I think we can close this out, okay? Mine is not an engineering report, number one. Number two, for everybody needs to know, this falls now in the hands of the CRA and the city council to decide what they want at the park. I would suggest that anyone that wants to suggest things to go into the park, they write up a program, write up an idea about that, and give it to the CRA or the city so that they can consider that and what needs to be there. I'd like to get away from all this issue about all the history and diversity and all this issue of the racism that went on or whatever. By the way, Ohio was a free state. They never had slaves. Anyway, so let's get away from all of that. Let's just build a park that everybody can enjoy, decide what you want to have, make a decision about whether you want 2 restrooms or 1 restroom, 5 pavilions, 10 pavilions, whatever you want to do, and let's get it done.
Good
I
deal.
think that's great, I'll do a report.
There you go. Great, thank you very
Thank
much.
you, George.
We appreciate it. Is there anybody else that wants to talk about the waterfront park?
I got
Tell us who you are, sir. Step up to the bar.
My name is Mike Schmidt. I live at the lake, and I got a little movie here on the USB. I want to show you. The most important part for a beachfront park is probably the water.
Yeah.
And if you can, hopefully that will play.
How long is it?
Not very long, and the whole thing is maybe 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna start collecting tickets in just a minute. So get your wallets out and your purses, and let's see if we can't get some money toward the waterfront project going here.
Either one, both of them.
Either one.
Play both of them. One is the big overview, and one goes more in a little bit detail.
Not now. Close.
Spyware.
Yeah, I was gonna say, spyware, he just took down the entire city system.
That's not
Nah.
that is not on the network.
Good deal. Very good.
You don't have the software to play it?
It may be done
Which one do you think we should do?
MOV. Yeah, place was all kinds of freeware, really. I bought my laptop home.
Tell you what, while we're doing that, let me go ahead and skip ahead real quick
let's see
and
if we can
eliminate
figure that
3 items on the agenda. City clerk's business, I'd like to go ahead and go to item number 14, and entertain a motion to pay the bills. Mrs. Haley?
Council, please approve the paying of the bills, please.
I make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to pay the city bills. Any comments, questions, or thoughts on not us paying the bills? All right, Kathy, go ahead and call roll.
Bishop,
Yes.
Carlisle,
Yes.
Mendel,
Yes.
Detman.
Yes.
You mean to keep going?
Item 14B is the 100th Annual Florida League of Cities Conference. Voting delegate, Mrs. Haley.
Councilman Carlisle will be attending, no one else has registered for that Florida League of Cities Conference, and Councilman Carlisle will be attending, so it is recommendation that Councilman Carlisle be appointed to serve as a voting delegate at the Florida League of Cities annual conference.
And he is the liaison to the Florida League of Cities, so can I get a motion on allowing Mr. Carlisle to have that designation, please?
Yes, I make a motion that Leonard Carlisle go for that,
Okay.
whatever.
And can I get a second
Second.
on that? And a
Wait a
second
minute.
from Mr.
Let's
Bishop.
clear this up.
Yes.
There
What's
is
it
no
called?
Leonard Carlisle.
Leonard, oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Leonard.
I am so sorry. I know better.
Okay, anybody have any comments, questions about that? Kathy, call the roll.
Bishop,
Yes.
Carlisle,
Yes.
Mendel,
Yes.
Detman.
Yes. And the final item under the city clerk's business is the announcement of planning and zoning board vacancy.
Yes, we've had a resignation of one of our planning and zoning board members who has, will be leaving town. So this will be to fill the unexpired term, which would be until December 31st, 2003. And we also are looking for 2 alternates. To be a member of this board, you must be a resident of the city of Sebring or a non-resident of the city but have an ownership interest in real property and a resident of Highlands County.
Okay.
The vacancy is listed on our webpage for an application. Anybody interested can submit their application to my office. It will be open until filled, so it could be open, it could be filled
We
pretty
have
soon.
a
or
great audience here tonight.
Yep.
Please, please consider sitting on that board. Very, very important for the future of our city.
Yep.
So if you have a little bit of time, they only meet once a month,
Yes, sir.
so it's not gonna take, and the meetings take an hour,
They meet on the second Tuesday of each month at 5:30.
maybe an hour and a
Yes,
half tops.
yeah.
I mean, if they go an hour and a half, it's because there's several big projects that are on the agenda, but that typically doesn't happen. So before you leave tonight, we're gonna have every one of you march by Mrs. Haley and say yes or no. No, if you have an interest in that, we'd really appreciate you putting in for that. So with that,
That's all I
are
have.
we ready to roll?
Yes.
Oh, okay, we don't need to vote on that, so go ahead. Are we ready to go? Or is it not working? It's not working so far? Okay, let's see what happens here then. Let's go ahead and do the public hearing. It's item 10D on your agenda, and it's resolution number 2022-8, Sebring Wastewater Stormwater Facilities Plan, which describes proposed improvements to the city's wastewater and stormwater system. This is a public hearing, folks. Before us this evening will be Craig Fuller and Mark Brewer, and they represent the firm of, help me out, Civil Serve.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes, yeah, pull that one up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Introduce
President.
yourself.
Council, my name is Craig Fuller. I'm the principal in charge on the project. With me also is...
You're gonna have to speak up or get the
Okay.
microphone a little bit
All
closer
right.
to you,
Let me
please.
see if I can get a little closer here.
Yeah.
So I'm the principal in charge on the overall project, and then I have with me also Mark Frederick. Mark Brewer is online, and quickly there's a piece of the report, and it's just a requirement of the DEP that this gets read in, that so that they know that they're referenced specifically for this funding. And it doesn't, it basically identifies that this allows the city to be able to acquire this funding, but it does not obligate the city. So it's a, it's a very lengthy report. I quizzed Councilman Carlisle and said he got through it twice.
It's only 600 pages.
That's right. So yes.
That's in
So
addition.
if you missed it,
641 or
So
something.
that's
we
in
forgive you.
addition to
Yes.
all of this here.
This is just right. This is
I
just
want to thank you for that.
one little part of it. And Mark, are you on?
Yes, can you hear me?
And that is
Yes.
a formality, am I correct?
Yes. This is just a formality, and so this is short.
Very
Rel-
good.
in relation to the 641 pages, right? All right. So I'll have Mark read it in. He's our funding expert with Angie Brewer and Associates. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so the purpose of this public hearing is to explain the project and the financial impacts to affected parties, provide an opportunity for the public to participate in evaluating project alternatives, as well as discussion adoption of the City of Sebring wastewater and stormwater systems improvement planning document. The proposed wastewater and stormwater systems improvements include the following projects: West Lake Jackson infrastructure upgrade phase 1, which involves about 2.7 miles of Lakeview Drive along the west side of Lake Jackson from its intersection with US 27 to Fairmont Lane. The gross revenues currently generated by the water and wastewater systems will be sufficient to support the estimated annual SRF loan debt payments. Once adopted, the City of Sebring may avail itself of low-cost SRF funds for construction of the project contained in the planning document. Adoption of the planning document and the capital financing plan by the City Council is a step required to establish eligibility for the SRF program. Adoption of the plans will in no way commit the city to construct the project, nor does it commit the city to using SRF funding or FDP to offer SRF funding. And that's what I have to read in the record.
Perfect. So it's just a verbatim. It's within the report, and then I'm going to go on and actually present it to you. Go ahead.
Right, but before you do that, for
Yes.
the benefit of our audience here this evening and those folks at home, it doesn't mean a whole lot to you when you hear the West Lake Jackson infrastructure upgrade and all that. What this is all about is Lakeview Drive from Fairmount all the way out to the Don Jose. You know, the one that goes like this? The one that you don't like for the front end of your cars and the alignment and this and that and the other thing? That's a big deal, and that's what this is all about. I think when it's all said and done, we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $18 million. And that's
Yes.
hopefully going to be a partnership with the state, the county, the city, Disney World, and God knows who else. But
Yeah, there's a ton of options for funding, and definitely we'll get you there. And if I guess so, I don't want to. I'll kind of this basically summarizes almost everything that is in the presentation, but as you said, 2.7 miles. There's 28 existing collection systems. There's 4 existing, that's stormwater, but there's 4 existing wastewater collection systems that kind of overlap. But what we thought was a roadway project, through basically a lot of calculations and modeling and studies, we determined, yeah, it's a roadway issue that's created by stormwater. So if we solve the stormwater, we can fix the roadway, and then it actually ties into what Mr. Schmidt was trying to show, which was when you have heavy rain events, a ton of waste goes into the lake, and that's unavoidable. I live in Winter Haven, and I'm also on the planning commission there, so I do understand the value of that. But we have the exact same issue, and unless it's a DOT-funded project, you got to go for these grants and low to no interest loans.
we're talking the laws of gravity here.
Exactly. It's going to come in, and this is a 1930, I think, roadway that had Mr. Sebring when he would originally developed it, but he didn't know that everything upstream was going to happen. 1/3 of your rainfall and outfalls go into this area, and that's why it's so expensive, because there's so much water. It's not a small area. It's a large area, and it's also a large volume. So, and let me go through the specifics of it. So on the background here, because it's, so we determined the issue to be drainage, and we numbered the outfalls from northeast to southwest. Kind of the red areas are somewhat areas where there's actually another one that once we did more modeling, we determined that there was a few areas that become really obvious when you drive over them. You can see the pavements kind of coming up. There just wasn't enough inlets, and you'll kind of see that on our evaluation when we kind of show what the fix is going to look like. But there was a lot of cuts in the roadway. So if you look, the one there bottom left it's just an issue with we thought a lot of it might be because of the sanitary system, because that kind of exposed itself because of sanitary. But what we really determined there was your sanitary system is largely in good shape, but it was just an issue of like sewer gases kind of destroying the inside of the manhole. So once that gets coated, and that became a rather small part of this project, and Bob's team has already started fixing it, so it's becoming the even smaller part of the project. But once they do that, we'll be able to kind of dig out around it and compact in and fill in, and then. But if you notice, bottom right, that's what we're talking about. When water stands on a road, what happens is it has to go somewhere, and it doesn't just evaporate. So it kind of finds its way between seams. And even though roads convey water really well, they absolutely hate it, because beneath it is a base material that tends to swell and then shrink when it dries. Swell, shrink. That's why you end up with a kind of a odd pattern. I know you guys have been through this before, and I'm just, it's a big public audience today, so I just figured I would go through that. But just onto the top right, that's one of your large conveyance structures. And what happened is it was conveying so much more water than it was designed for. It started pushing out the wall. And so there was a fix, but the fix put on another small wall, and it just wasn't big enough. So once we expand it, that won't happen. Through the many years that probably since that original box culvert was put in, DOT's kind of made more standard sizes and things like that, and they've determined their size based on the force from behind it. And so what's kind of happening is the water's forcing its way around it, and not to be gloom and doom, but if we don't do something, eventually it will cave in and fall in. We obviously don't want that. So that's why, that's a big chunk of the expense, obviously. So let me see if I can. So, again, the sewer issues are pretty small, but I could show you, like, this is an example project that we did a fix on. If you see the insides of the manhole, there's no grout or all you can see is aggregate. And what happens, it'll kind of etch its way through there. Generally, I'll say luckily, maybe because the water levels are so high in the ground, it's coming in. It's not going out, it's coming in. But that's overwhelming your pump stations, and then they just fill up all the time. So this will really help. Now, again, they've done a lot of work, so it's definitely to a less degree. But the bottom left is the same one as the bottom right after the fix. So you can see they just resurface it, seal it, rebench it, everything works. Next one. Now, this was kind of the concept. We kicked around a bunch of ideas, but what we wanted was not to just reroute your drainage, because there is no eligibility for any of these loans or any of these grants if we just reroute it and send it into the lake. So we calculated, and that's why Mark was here, was to size all the systems that would be needed. There's inline treatment systems that will intercept, like floatables that like Mr. Schmidt was intending to show in his video, but also like leaves and dog waste and debris. It'll settle down to the bottom and allow your vac truck to remove it after a major storm. And we can actually, because we've done this in so many other municipalities, there's calculations that we know within a pretty tight degree how much that individual system will remove, because we know the amount of water it's going to see in a year. We know what they call it the curve number, or the amount of water that's basically going to fall in the area, then the fraction that's going to run off to that, and then we also know what the approximate concentration of nitrogen and phosphorus, TSS, BOD, COD, things that we can naturally remove in that. And if the importance of this is Lake Jackson itself is an impaired lake. They haven't determined why, but
It's
it's what they call an impaired lake. That means that something's happening there that's causing growth. And usually it's just what they call like chlorophyll A. So they're saying there's growth happening, and they don't know why. And so, and what we're trying to do is head off what they call like a TMDL, which is like eventually they'll set limits and make you build something you don't want with no funding. So if we start doing it, because we had been in discussions with the Southwest Florida Water Management District about what did they want to see as far as funding in our area. They specifically said ridge lakes. We want to see more ridge lakes, some of these great lakes that are along your ridge here, because there's just not enough projects to get the water quality up. And so the structures we specifically selected, which are that kind of, I know it's a black box, but that's physically top right, what they more or less look like. And you can paint them if you want them disguised, whatever. That's, but it flows in, and then it runs through the treatment unit, and then we have what's called a bubble up structure. And what they can do, it looks bottom left, that's what the detail, that's, I know, very engineering of us, but that's what we are. And so and then what it has downstream of it is riprap. But what the concept there is, it prevents it from the silt from the lake coming in, and therefore it doesn't blind the outlet, which is kind of what happens on a lot of your outlets right now. It also kind of creates a standard method for conveying it, and it doesn't impede access. Like, you could drive over it if you wanted to. We could keep your curb cuts where they are, no problem there. And because I know people are still going to want access to their lake. It also kind of cleans up, it makes it semi-universal, because we're actually going to decrease the number of outlets to the lake, not increase. They're already there, but now we're going to kind of unify them and put them hopefully at the ends of roads and things like that as much as we can. There's some we can't, but there's one in particular I know that just, it was 200-300 feet beyond the road, kind of running through a gentleman's yard, and it collapsed in a few places. Well, I don't know how to fix it exactly, because how do we get to it? Nobody owns, we don't own that land. He would probably let us fix it, but 200-300 feet of pipe is expensive. So I'll just slide to the next one then. These are some of the larger examples. West, that's the conveyance from Lake Sebring over. So we just replaced that with a larger sized box culvert for the flow that we know is coming. And then what we're proposing there is to reroute the surface overflow into treatment units. The flow from Lake Sebring is so great. I'm not proposing to treat all that, and I don't know that there'd be a huge benefit. Not like the direct surface overflow. You can remove floatables and things like that, but there's already a structure that's kind of coming from, I'll be honest, it's county, conveyance. So we're trying to work with them and, take on what we can, but not remove any additional stuff. The other one is at the end of Pinewood. There's a double barrel system that kind of gets combined, and it's having issues just because of that. So we're just kind of regrade around it, and then to the left of that there's just not enough inlets to bring in, and what we're trying to do is combine. There's 3 or 4 systems there. Combine it all into one, and then we can route it kind of where one of them is, as opposed to using so many, because right now there's a bunch in that area, and that's why it's numbered with multiple numbers. There's actually more than one outlet already there. So next one. And then there's a St. Agnes. Again, replace your large cross drain. That's kind of, it's kind of showed it with a simplified, just a line. And then the other is to get run the the captured runoff into a combined system over to the west, and then on the east, that's or I'm sorry, east. On the right, it's not east. I know, it's just because it's kind of coming around the lake. It's actually, I think, north, but but on the right, again, just put together some inlets, run it through one combined system, and again, treat it before it runs in the lake, so you don't have soda cans and trash and paper and all that kind of stuff. One of the most complicated is Don Drive. This was, it just is not flowing the way it was originally designed. And all I can think is kind of just, nature cuts its course. So what we kind of determined, we couldn't figure out, because we were overlaying like, this model says it should go here, this one says it should go here. It was intended to go to the existing swale that's there. Well, it doesn't go to that swale, it goes kind of down the access road to work on the swale. And then it cuts down Don Drive. That's why that system is just completely overloaded. So what we're kind of proposing is to do a cutoff and put a berm that reroutes it back to where nature intended this thing to go before we started driving up and down that access road. And then that would largely, it doesn't completely solve it, but it makes the system then downstream much smaller, and then it doesn't blow like a geyser in the gentleman's front yard, because it's making a turn. So, and it's not just a geyser; it's all the debris that comes out with it, right? Next one. And this, I know the top left. I know the city's kind of done that along Lakeside and Highlands, a little bit of it, and there's some rerouting of water pipe and stuff that just conflicts. We just kind of finished this. Because we had actually, we were in the middle of evaluating it, and we kind of gave some elevations of things of the structure bottom left, and so they could combine it. And I believe, this is the area where it runs out through the one yard that it's collapsed for at least 2 or 3 locations. So it's not very effective as it is. Right. And then at just north of Don Jose, there's another canal that comes across. Again, put the inlets. That's one of those areas. There's just no capture. It conveys okay, but the cut isn't, and the again, the wall on the outside isn't working. So next one, and then this is I'll say the area of probably greatest concern, where we just don't see much stormwater collection at all because it's so flat. So just kind of collect the stormwater along. The only reason we showed it going through Don Jose, it's actually an easement, but I'd propose you don't route it there. It doesn't really make sense. We're just showing it because it is conceptually city property. Maybe not easement, maybe it's right of way. But there's a lot of improvements there. You talk to the owners of Don Jose, and I'm sure they'd work with you to route it, through one side or the other, as long as you can keep their parking lot accessible, right? And maybe there's a better location. We're willing to work that out. It's just, we know it has to be somewhat down in that area. And then this was the phasing of this, because we didn't realize the magnitude, obviously, until we took it apart and put it back together in this plan, which was, of course, the full intent of this plan. But we kind of realized that, especially upon meeting with you guys, senior staff, that maybe it's best to get the major conveyances first, because they have the greatest potential for a safety hazard, right? So we identified those, and those were largely what we had as far as the individual presented items. I know we cover it with like a single line, but some of these are 4x6 or larger, 4x8 box culverts with head walls as wide as this room almost to hold the thing back, or thick and narrow, and kind of just safety improvements.
So to kind of oversimplify this,
yeah,
let's hit the areas that are the worst right now.
Correct.
And get them squared away.
Yep.
So that when the big project comes through, we're a little ahead of ourselves.
Well, so what the idea here is, and Mayor Shoup had a fantastic idea here. was because I did not foresee where interest rates may go. We're still way ahead of the curve, and I'll let Mark cover that. But even though interest rates are rising on individuals, I guess it's trailing on bonds, and it's a discount, and there's other discounts, so you're still very near zero potentially for this, if not zero. I'm not going to say you're zero, but Mark will kill me, right? Not this Mark, the mythical Mark on the yes, exactly.
The guy that's not here tonight.
Right. So he's our funding expert. And he's put this together, and he's anticipating it. You'd love to see zero, but it's probably less than 0.5% at this point anyway.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the idea. Is you borrow all the money to design the whole thing, you get the whole thing approved. Then, if we can get in for as low of interest rate as possible, you can still phase it over time and release different projects as you find funding for the other projects. So it's like you start one, and then you get the funding. You start the design. Once you get the design done, now you're eligible for tons of funding.
Sure.
And I won't steal his thunder on percentages, but I've heard really good percentages. But it's also, you could get something from this, something from this, something from this. So it may be better than. But then he can give us advice on. Sometimes there's additional red tape it ties you to. So,
May I ask a question?
And it does buy us some time to down the road for other opportunities for funding.
Correct.
Mrs.
Right.
Mendel had a question for you.
Yes,
I do.
please.
Like these conveyances, are they back to 1930 with
Uh,
the road, or were they put in after? Or
Some of
probably
them.
didn't have a need in 1930 to have any kind of these conveyances.
I would guess that some of them are. Yes.
And so I was looking at some of your stuff here, and we have no present treatment of any of the runoff currently going into the. So is that a great expense? A big part of this 18? Was it 18 million?
The whole project would be.
Yeah,
Because we've got
yes.
to stop that with polluting our lake.
Correct. So just to give you rough kind of numbers on that, so because that's a very common question, is taking everything apart. If we were to separate and say, we're just going to design those treatment structures and then construct them, I want to say the rough number is between 3 and 4 million, closer to 4 of that. So even though it's a small fraction of it in relative terms, it makes you eligible for 100% funding of the
I heard
actual.
that was good funding for that.
Yeah.
But so does that treatment come at the end of the project, or can you get
Part
going
of it.
on that?
Mm-hmm. Well, so the treatment is what the order of things now is. This will go through. This doesn't bind you to anything, as your attorney will note, and but it allows you to approve this. Just says resolution, we approve this, but if you don't like your rates, if you don't like your the terms or something, or the first project moves and the next step though then is design. Because of trying to get the lowest rates possible, you're looking at design for the whole thing. Designing at that big a project is going to take a while but what we'll try to do is get our team focused on specifically surveying that section first, that we know we're going to, work on first. Then geotech, get all the core samples, because there's going to be a lot of geotech. Just getting, digging holes in the ground, finding out what's there, how much has to be removed, and then, replaced and that sort. But the overall program we're anticipating in the range of 5 years for design through construction, but it's in 4 phases. So the original, we were hoping to have everything through there's also timing related to SRF. So it's not like you can get it at any time. It's twice a year. So we anticipate then either a year and a half from August, because that's when they would actually first fund us. And we're not allowed to begin anything, otherwise you guys can't be reimbursed. So we kind of get our hands tied a little bit. And the reason, council member, the reason it got a little slow was because of some of the COVID things. it just wasn't moving. You know, it was like we'd get stuff into them, and they took more than a period to approve the first stuff. So it took longer than anticipated.
Once you go by that, you go and you overcome the beginning. When you get to the beginning, is there a way you could do some kind of temporary treatment of the water that's pouring down into our beautiful lake?
There is, but I mean, I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be the same level. Maybe. I mean, there's things they could buy and kind of put in there, but the risk. There's a high risk here. They could put like things in the inlets, but it'll tend to blind. And they're already too small.
And block it.
Yeah. So
block the water flow
exactly
entirely, and then back up into
correct.
residential properties.
Yeah. You would. That's exactly it. We went through with one of the biggest supplier for this stuff, who's actually right here in the Sebring Airport. That's where they construct a lot of this stuff. So and we were talking about this project, and we said, well, yeah, what about that? And they said, yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen if you put this stuff in there. Sure, it's a temp fix, but you may
cause a bigger problem.
Yeah, you've fixed the dirtiness, but then caused you flooded a customer. So that
and then once again,
help.
I think for the benefit of our audience, the water flow, the wastewater flow, or not the water flow, the stormwater flow that we're talking about is coming all the way from US 27. So if you look at our city geographically, here's Lake Jackson, right? Here's Lakeview Drive, and here's Lake Sebring, which flows into Lake Jackson, and here's 27. So it's a gradual but an absolute, call it what you want, the laws of gravity are in effect. The water can't go anywhere but toward Lake Jackson. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here, without having to quadruple your taxes and all of those kind of crazy things.
It actually comes from Sebring Hills as well.
And from Sebring Hills, that whole area, both to the west, north, and I'm not sure about the south, but the north and the west area, all of that water is heading toward Lake Jackson. It has nowhere else to go.
Gulf Hammock comes in.
Gulf Hammock, that whole thing.
Yeah, it's you can't even see as far so and just to kind of give you an idea is when we originally were discussing this project, if you remember, the Highlands County was performing some modeling, just regional, right? And they were going to tell us, well, they've got about a year left on their modeling. So I mean, like I said, I knew it was a huge effort. I was like, you don't want to wait on that. You're going to hope to be, hopefully near, digging in the dirt by the time they're done. So, but the nicety of this is their recommendations, I could guarantee, are going to say the same things, which are, increase the size of your pipes and get some treatment, because eventually Lake Jackson, because of the more and more growth that comes in the area, we don't want it to turn into. I'll be honest. There's some lakes in Winter Haven that are just absolutely destroyed. DOT did a really nice project on Lake Elbert, put a bunch of treatment in, but the cost was monstrous because they changed the road profile. They raised it up, and we kind of considered that, but it was that would destroy kind of access for the people who own both sides, and we're like, I don't think that's going to be popular.
No, it is not going to be popular.
Right. And then the other is raising a road and the fill, and then reconnecting to the other side is extremely expensive. Yes. So anyway, just
so the scope of work, if we can get to that part, known as attachment 4.
Yes. So yeah, and this is just each phase. We're trying to hit the big ones first.
Yep.
And we'll switch to the next. And then just going through the loan process and so if you want me to skip through this, I can, because I know you guys are completely familiar. We're at the bold item. So all we have to do is you locally adopt this, make sure it's an ordinance or resolution.
Resolution.
Yeah, resolution. that says you adopt this plan,
Yeah.
and then it goes to the FDEP. They're going to review
Right.
the environmental things, whatever. Then it gets adopted. But so this is the official resolution adopting the overall plan. The scope of work, we had preliminarily estimated it to be, and we just tied them together that way. Assuming you receive funding, we could move forward with this with the go-ahead from your staff, so we don't have to
Right.
take too
So
much of your
four-
time. Now that
four-
yeah.
So in other words, 4 phases at approximately $5 million per phase, which bumps the $20 million mark. That's why I had mentioned the 18 million
Right.
up front, which was our initial estimate, if you will.
And I will say, and if you look at the at the actual funding doc, what they did with Mr. Brewer had done is he's projecting. We go back to, I'll call it normal inflation, and calling time value of money, that it's going to be roughly 20 million overall. Now, to be clear, it's not just 20 million construction. We tried to put everything in here because we don't want you don't want surprises. So
Right.
that includes the design, the permitting, the utility redesign
All the bells
and
and
reconstruction
whistles.
of the
Sure.
because we don't think we're not going to hit other utilities. When I say other utilities, your utilities, because your utilities are 100% along this corridor, and we know that.
Yep.
So we don't want to pretend that we don't. And then various gas groups have kind of known that they have things that they don't like, and they've said they're gonna work in good faith with us in hoping to reconstruct things together. So we're kind of happy about that. So this is the overall attachment, and originally it's surveying, and we're also gonna do subsurface utility location. That includes designates, because there's a lot of old utilities. We don't know exactly where they are, so we're going to snap on them and physically flag them, and then the ones that appear to conflict, we'll do soft digs and locate them. So this is the overall, schedule. That's kind of what I was saying is. We think to get it all through permitting, it's going to take roughly 18 months. We can break things apart if we want to move one phase, but again, I'll say in your best interest, if you want to get approved for the funding while they have funding, it may be worth it to, and while they have the lowest cost funding potential, it may be worth it to wait that 18 months and maybe we could take a look at an area that we've already surveyed. You could use that for like a mill and resurface, because you'd have all the hard data of what that would be. It's going to get reconstructed, but at least you wouldn't spend 4 or 5 million or something. You could work, I think, with the county, and they give you kind of a cut rate deal on that, right?
Let's hope.
They offered it before.
We can negotiate, absolutely, and they always have worked very well with us.
But we had originally anticipated and calculated based on phasing that this was going to be roughly 1.6 to 1.8 million. But because it's all being put together, and this is really just based on man hours and all of the our partners. This includes funding with Brewer and Associates. It includes a large amount of structural design for these culverts, geotech design for the subsurface. It includes the design of all the connections, the roadway resloping, the stormwater redesign. Each one of these structures has to be designed. The big ones are the treatment structures. I'll be honest, because they're not. Yes, it's like a general size, but then you have to. There's a bunch of critical elevations in there to make sure it actually works, which kind of makes sense. So, but yeah, that's the bottom. Like I said, is support services to make sure we're staying in line and you guys are getting the funding that you need.
Yep. Well, I know you didn't bring this gentleman along just for good looks.
No. So he is absolutely here for real technical.
Is he your chauffeur or is he your backup unit?
Yeah, neither. So, yeah, I can if you'd like.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I can have Mark go through if you want to. If you'd like to go into the nitty gritty of the actual, it's kind of neat.
Why don't we ask council that question? I think we've all gone through at least this part of it. So that's entirely up to you whether you would like him.
600 plus pages?
No, this part here, this isn't the 600.
I know,
The
that's
600's
what-
online.
I know.
I got to page, I don't know, yeah, and then I woke back up and then I, so, yeah, there's a lot of technical jargon in there that the ordinary person like myself wouldn't understand.
Yeah, and
So, do you guys want him to go through it A to Z, or would you like him to go ahead and draw this to a conclusion and then we can close the public hearing?
Let's conclude it.
I got one little thing. So, Mr. Brewer's company, they're a grant, that what their business is to help us pay for all this.
not just grants but loans. Like, he's connected, so he knows all the series and what's coming and what they want to see, and yeah, and how. So, Mark, I'll let you cover it. He basically
Just kind of quickly, I
Yes.
just had that question.
Sure.
Yeah, so what we do is we focus on infrastructure funding. That comes in the form of grant first. We like grant in, grant out first, and then any borrowing, and in the programs that we deal with. So for instance, the reason there's such a focus on water quality, not only that we have a significant resource for the city in Lake Jackson, but by removing nutrients, it helps you to have a water quality improvement, which opens up a number of other programs, such as water management district, and also there's a state water quality assistance grant program, and we would basically buy the project down by identifying those grants. Those programs require you to be shovel ready. I'm sure a lot of people have heard that term come up in the last several years. The federal and state government does not want to award grants for projects that are not ready to go. What the SRF program does from a loan standpoint is it allows you to borrow money at, in your case, it would be around 0%, can't guarantee zero, but right now the calculations would be, if you were to sign a loan agreement in this quarter, your rate would be 0%. Because of the passage of time, each quarter that resets, by definition, the SRF program reduces versus bond rates, it's a 40% discount, and then there are up to 1.1% deduction for having special requirements that you would have to have anyway, federal requirements, and then there's also an affordability index that buys that down as well. So that's how you would essentially end up at about 0%. So the idea is, over the 5 years, continue to pursue yearly grant funding, and you only pay back to SRF what you actually draw down. So even if you enter into a $20 million loan, if we can bring, say, about $1 million or $1.5 million per year over a 5-year period, that amount would not be borrowed, and it would bring the total cost of delivery down significantly.
Thank you.
You all would love to build a house like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Sure you would.
Yeah, I keep trying to figure out a way to get it once personally, but
Yeah.
there's
Just one time. Yep. This is still a public hearing, folks. Did you say you had something you'd like to add to tonight's presentation? Okay. Let me go ahead and solicit one last time. Public comments, inputs, questions. This is a public hearing. Sir?
We have the movie ready, yes.
Yeah, that's for that's on the CRA portion of it. What's that?
Oh, it was actually related to this.
Oh, okay.
But he was. Yeah.
All right, do you want to play that? Go ahead. That's water. Oh, the white foam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and
yeah.
that's exactly.
Yeah, the white
This
foam.
is exactly what
Yep.
they're designed to remove is these floatables.
And what is that? What is the white
Car
foam?
wash, it looks like, if I was gonna guess.
And we have the car washes that we're in the process of working with the DEP to try to get them legalized, if you will. The ones where the car wash,
Treat
the
their
water
own
and
facility.
go, yeah.
Yeah, and they recycle it.
Goes right into the lake. Yeah, it has to be recycled. That's the whole issue.
Right.
But there isn't a fish kill or anything around all that.
There's hypodermic needles we found in there, surgical gloves, and then all kinds of debris that ends up on the road, like
Any kind
flattened
of debris
aluminum
that can
cans
float
left
from
over
US
fast
27
food happy
along the way.
and the likes.
Find those
modem we
newspapers
found
they throw
yesterday, we
away.
found a
We have
modem
we have
in there.
one at a house over from us, and you find all kinds of garbage that comes through
No,
there.
you'd be surprised what can come through those outlets. It's crazy.
You know,
It's crazy.
unfortunately, I don't know that exact address, but yeah, that's what we intend to do along the Solo route is remove all that.
Yep. Okay, public comments, input? Yes, sir. Who are you?
Mike Waldron, resident of Sebring. I live on Lake Jackson at Edgewater Arms, and about a year ago when I moved in there, I did notice a lot of the unimpeded water that runs down from the Sebring City Circle, from Ridgewood and wherever the water may fall that day into that particular area. With that, I called the Highlands County Department of Natural Resources, and they did say, just for the record, since I didn't hear anything brought up tonight, was at that time, Lake Jackson was a lake of concern, quote unquote. And I was just curious if anyone had mentioned where we were back then versus where we are now relative to water quality. Is that what put us today into this project? When I was on the city council in Lake Placid for 3 years, we had this same problem with Lake Clay, and there were some French drains and so forth that were put in. There were comments made about places like that where there would be basically bags that were porous that would catch those hypodermic needles that he's mentioned, and so that's just my comment.
Yeah, I'm sure our lakes manager, not the city, but the county's lakes manager could be able to tell us about the quality of the water in the lake then and now.
I'd love to hear that sometime.
Yeah, that's a phone call away. Yep.
I was gonna say, so it's very likely that the DEP has a log of that, and I'll look it up, you know, and send you a link, because they keep it over time for most large lakes.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea, and then maybe put it on our city website. So if anybody else would like to look it up, you can do that as well. Yep. Okay, so, anybody else? Otherwise, I have to close this public hearing, open it up to members of council for additional discussion, comments, and concerns. Anybody else want to talk about this subject matter? All right. The public hearing is now closed. Council's questions, comments, concerns? Everybody's good? Leonard? Sorry, Leonard? I had to do that. You know I had to do that. Okay. So, hearing none, we do have a requested motion that is all printed up for you, and if you are comfortable with that requested motion, I will entertain a motion as I said.
Want me to?
You're, Leonard, you're the man.
Nope, I'm yielding the floor.
Wow.
I
okay.
move we accept resolution 2022-08, accepting FDEP SRF facilities and financing plan as further defined and specifically noted in notice of public hearing. Approved proposal for design services to complete design of all phases, allowing for project to move to construction phasing funded by proposed facilities and financing plan.
Second.
Instruct us.
Would
Yeah,
you like
we
to instruct-
also instruct the city attorney to amend the original consultant services agreement with propose attachment 4 and authorize execution by council president.
I second that one.
Okay, we have the motion and a second by Mr. Leonard Carlisle. Any other comments or questions from the audience? Hearing none, Kathy, call the roll.
Bishop,
Yes.
Carlisle,
Yes.
Mendel,
Yes.
Detman.
Yes. Okay, let's get on to some additional business here. Brings us to business from the audience.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
May I do my concern first before you start to the business with the audience?
And your topic might be
The burlesque.
burlesque.
But I also had one other thing that I forgot to ask earlier.
Right.
You know, Mark Stewart last meeting, he proposed that we have a report from the CRA, a regular report,
Right,
maybe a monthly report.
right.
And I've been thinking about that, and I would like to see a monthly report from the CRA.
Okay, so was it the general consensus of council? I think it was at the time.
Yep. Would it be possible for, as the liaison to the CRA, following a meeting, I can come during the council comments, I can make, give an
Absolutely, that'd be
update?
very appropriate, I believe.
All right.
Mr. Swain, I think that's a very appropriate measure. Have the liaison to the CRA present the monthly report from the CRA. That way, Mr. Lydell, we don't have to put you on time and a half.
Appreciate it.
I'll bet. Okay, and now listen, while you wanted to bring up about the burlesque,
Yes.
and I do have, let's make
Oh, you have
sure-
something else?
No, actually, I think I have two other folks here who may be wanting to talk about the same thing. Maybe I'm mistaken, under business from the audience. Tiffany Cadzo?
Yes.
Is that the same subject matter?
It is some of the same subject matter perhaps, but not entirely.
Okay, let's do this then. And Robert Cadzo, the same thing?
No.
No, not the same thing. Okay, then let's, you go right ahead, ma'am.
You want me to go first?
You are,
Oh,
you
okay.
are in charge.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for coming. I'm new on city council. I grew up in Sebring, but I was away for most of my adult life, but I always owned property here and had relatives and came back to visit. And Sebring is very dear to me. And since I became interested in working on city council, I have been really to more, learning more and going to more events and more locations than I ever had before. And I'm very, very interested in our city and our growth and our people. And I take this job very, very seriously. And I'm very honored to be a Sebring City Council person. And while I don't know all the proper procedures and all the correct language, I do know the big picture. And I want to say to all of you, old faces and new faces, that I want to make myself available to you, to come to me with your concerns. And I hate that lectern where I can't see everybody, but I think Sebring, we are growing and changing. And we want to see how we can do that in a way that works in a healthy manner for everyone. So we were founded by George Sebring on Judeo-Christian values, and we are, in the most part, a very family-friendly town. And I, of course, would like to see that continue, and I feel like a lot of the people here would feel the same way about it. But times are changing, and I think we want to love and respect the people of Sebring, whether or not we agree with their politics, maybe, their lifestyle. We're all adults here, I think, pretty much, no kids in here. And God gives us the right to make our choices. And so we want to be listening to what you have to say. We want you to feel respected, everybody. Like I said, no matter what your politics are, we're a family. That's the way I look at it. And we want to see how we can best grow our city and I believe maintain that family feel. And I did go to the show at Faded Restaurant Sunday evening, and I want to compliment the Cadzow, Tiffany and Bob. The restaurant was beautiful. The staff was courteous, polite, accommodating. The food looked great. The people were very friendly. And I am for businesses growing. I'm for that. However, the ladies that were there, the show ladies, burlesque ladies, while they were very, very talented and very limber, I don't feel like that is the kind of entertainment we would like to have in our city limits. It was R-rated and not family-friendly, and I feel like I would propose some kind of an ordinance to maybe limit that. I'm not sure what's possible. I did have a meeting with our city attorney, Bob Swain, yesterday about it. I would like to definitely keep that kind of a business off of our downtown circle, and I feel like that is where this is headed. The CRA has a contract with the Cadzow folks for an Irish pub and a upstairs boutique hotel, and in the two businesses they have here, they have had this R-rated, non-family friendly type entertainment, and including when they had the Blue Lagoon, same thing. Now that is a choice that people can make as adults, like what I said. But I feel like it's not a good thing to have in our downtown area, and I would really like it out of the city limits. These choices really aren't good for the individual, in my opinion, and they're not good for our community. So we need to look at that, and I'll know there'll be many here that'll have a lot to say about it, but I just want to say that's my opinion. And I've spoken to a few people about it, but I really haven't spoken to too many. But there are a lot of people here in our city area that are not going to agree that this is a good thing. So I'm not sure how this needs to proceed, but my opinion, and I'm not sure even how to say this, but as a city councilwoman, you know, I was elected to do the very best thing I can for Sebring. And that's whether it's difficult or easy. And I'm here to tell you, I thought it'd be a lot easier. But this is an important decision to make where we're gonna go with our downtown area. It's hard for me to get really excited about the development of the downtown area if we're going to turn it into a more burlesque type situation. I think that's better off in another area.
Your opinions are definitely trying to sway the audience right now, and it's unfair.
Well, of course they are. That's my opinion, and your opinions will be doing the same thing. So I think that's everything I have to say.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Ms.
That's
Mandel.
really,
Yeah, I appreciate that. And is there a response to that by, now, Mrs. Cat, let's go ahead and go with
You have a prepared speech though?
with the announcements here, okay, that you've already signed up for. And we're gonna kinda leave it right at about the 3-minute or so mark. I'll let you know, and then I'll let you know when you need to wrap it up. So if you'd like to come on up, Miss Tiffany Cadzow.
I also had my name in for the same discussion.
Okay, and you are Mary Wilkinson? I thought that, okay, you can come up next then. Thank you, Mary.
All right, Tiffany Cadzow, owner of Faded Bistro and Beer Garden, Monserk Wine Bar, and now the brand new Diving Girl Diner in downtown Avon Park. We just opened this week. So, wow, I have to say that I'm kind of flattered by all of this. I've never had my picture or my friend's pictures just passed out among a whole bunch of people I don't know before, but it's interesting. It's interesting that my business flyers have been passed out at City Hall. I never thought that would happen, so I feel very popular lately. I had the pleasure of hosting Ms. Mandel herself at this past Sunday's dinner show. Thanks for purchasing the ticket to a private, ticketed, adult-only event. I would, however, appreciate in the future if those few high-demand tickets that I have to offer could be reserved for genuine supporters of the art. I have never, ever not sold out one of these shows. I never have enough tickets for all the people that would like to attend. So in the future, I would love for those tickets to go to people that actually want to attend, participate, and appreciate. Burlesque is a classic performance art, It's been enjoyed worldwide for over 150 years. I personally love the art itself. I love the gorgeous costumes. I'm a fashion buff and a bit of an amateur designer. Lots of you probably know that. I love its creativity. I love the positive body image that is allowed for women. And I love this sisterhood that I've witnessed within that community. These performers and these women, they lift each other up. They take care of each other. They help each other. They work together. It really is beautiful. Burlesque is not illegal. If you don't like it, don't attend. I will continue sharing this and other entertainment that I see fit at my venues. I have legal counsel to protect my constitutional rights, so I won't even open that can of worms right here, right now. I do have one important message I would like to deliver. Von Stark Wine Bar and all of my businesses are and always will be a safe, inclusive, non-judgmental environment for those of all races, sexes, sexual orientations, and religions. That being said, anyone who does not carry these values in their heart need not cross the threshold. I am certainly not capable of forcing anybody's patriotism at any of my businesses. It's that simple. If you don't like it, don't attend. I will not be intimidated to change who I am, what and who I love, or who and what I stand for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Kedzo. Mary Wilkinson, you said you would like to speak
Yes,
on the
sir.
same subject matter?
Yes, sir. I'm Mary Wilkinson. I grew up in Lake Placid. Spent many years there, Lake Placid Elementary, middle, and high school. Then went to SFCC for a little bit of time before I went to the Keys and came back here to Sebring, where I'm raising my 2 boys. I believe we can all agree on the fact that we want to live in a safe and prosperous town with leaders that hold into account what makes this country so great. At the beginning of this meeting, we said the pledge, liberty and justice for all. Within that, capitalism, which is designed for the best of society, it keeps everyone, in our society, everyone has different ideas of fun. So what you and I might do is completely different. Not everyone wants to go climb Mount Everest. Not everyone wants to go to a burlesque show. But that's freedoms are what chooses, or that we choose, are what makes us Americans and what makes this country so great. And what I think makes this town so wonderful, that we have things that we can do like the Heartland Triathlon on the weekend if you so choose, or maybe you go to a burlesque show. Everyone in our group here seems to be in agreement that people all need different outlets, places to go and to feel authentic. Everyone in our melting pot of society also capitalizes differently, hence the many businesses this very council supports. When I heard my favorite businesses were under fire due to burlesque, beautiful art, which, like Tiffany said, has been around for 100 years, hundreds of years, and done all over the state of Florida in different cities with different people of different races and different kinds coming together to do something fun. At 18, we can sign up to go to war for our country. We can also enter businesses that serve alcohol, so long as they're properly banded, to have fun. 18 to play, if you will. Now that I'm 34 with 2 babies, escaping and having my time to play is essential to my mental health, and I know I'm not alone in that. And these establishments, Monserc and Faded specifically, are the only ones that I actually even visit anymore, being a stay-at-home mom. But in those places, I can be my authentic self, and I know everyone else here can too, for our pursuit of happiness.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilkinson. I appreciate that. Just as a sidebar, so everybody does know this, and this is from the legal perspective only, the Sebring Police Department did observe the show on Sunday evening and found no violation of our city ordinance, just so you know that.
Thank you.
Is Mercedes Munoz here? Are you talking about the same topic?
Yes, sir.
Please come on up. Tell us who you are.
Hello, my name is Mercedes Munoz. I'm speaking to you as a local business owner a former employee of Bob Katzow and Tiffany Katzow, an artist and a performer. I think the reason this is becoming an R-rated situation is because of our ordinance of indecent exposure 14-8. Now, burlesque performers normally aren't in this specific code. Generally, worldwide, they take more clothes off than that. And that is against our city ordinance. That ordinance is something that restricts and censors art. And as a performer, you have your right to your own art. Now, Bob and Tiffany Katzow have been a very big inspiration and very big mentors to me in my adult life. Not only have they inspired me with their success in business in this county, but they have also had loving and kind hearts and welcome all into their businesses, performers, artists, and I just want to say that they have a heart for inclusivity and diversity in our community. This diversity being performances, artists, musicians, poets, which on the flyer that has been passed out about Montserrat and burlesque shows, they talk about the boudoir soiree. The boudoir soiree is a costume party with live art, poetry, and music being performed. Now, at this costume party, the attendants are free to express themselves in whatever costume that they see fit. This ordinance implies that if you have someone attend, which not only am I a previous employee, I'm an attendant of these events, that if they are not in this ordinance of dress code, you have to ask them to leave their establishment. And as a business owner, that takes money out of the business. Do you want that for businesses in your community? I know that I'm a beauty professional. I would lose business if I asked someone wearing a certain outfit that maybe was cut too low to leave my establishment. I would lose their business. That hurts the economy in this city.
Okay, go ahead and draw it to a close, Mercedes. We're at the 3-minute limit now.
I think I've said enough. Thank you.
And let me say this in response to what you just said. I greatly appreciate, as council president, on behalf of this council and the city of Sebring, that you guys did work within the ordinance of our municipality. And we're greatly appreciative of that, because anything less than that would have caused conflict. And there is no conflict that I can see at this point.
Okay.
They're just personal opinions.
I do have one more thing to add.
And I get that too, so.
One more thing.
Yes.
Tiffany mentioned being a fashion buff. I myself am. And I've worked very closely, 2 years, raising money for the Sebring Angels. First year, we raised $7,000. The second year, we raised $14,000. And this fundraiser was a fashion show.
Great.
That we created costumes for that probably weren't within this ordinance. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Katzow, you were one of the first ones to submit your request form. Did you want to speak on this topic, or is yours individually different?
Mine is different from this. And I don't think I was first. I was probably third or fourth.
Oh, maybe not. Reverend George Miller, then. First Amendment. Reverend Miller? Thank you for signing up tonight.
Thank you. I think there was something else I wanted to speak.
Well, good evening, everyone. It is certainly good to be here. And before I prepare to share what I was going to say, it's always an important reminder whenever Christian scripture is used in public settings that we are mindful that scripture is read different ways. So it's important to know that in Matthew chapter 11, Jesus Christ himself was accused of being a drunken and a glutton. So we have to be very careful to realize the very person that we have based our Christian faith on himself was questioned for who he hung out with and what he did. My name is Reverend George Miller. My address is 310 Matlow Avenue. And recently, our newspaper reported that police forces are patrolling the parks in Hong Kong to prevent anyone from having a vigil in remembrance of Timmerman. This is the third straight year that their government has snuffed out any dissent and silenced people's voices. This is why I am so thankful to be here as an American. And this is why whenever we say the pledge and we get to say, with liberty and justice for all, it is an incredible sense of pride that I have. As the descendant of American patriots who fought in the Revolutionary War and World War II and Vietnam, I celebrate that we get to live in a free country where we have the Constitution and the ability to thrive in a capitalistic society where anyone can succeed if they work hard enough. As a church pastor, the freedom of speech is paramount. For me as a church pastor, the freedom of speech is the true mark of the USA and what it means to be an American. Thank God for the First Amendment, which allows for people to peacefully assemble, which includes events like our Christmas parade and Juneteenth and Pride. Thank God for our First Amendment, which prohibits abridging freedom of speech, which includes preaching, writing, poetry, songs, plays, performances, dances, art. In my opinion, anyone who prohibits people from gathering in celebration and pride, anyone who prohibits people from exercising their freedom of speech, is violating the very elements of what it means to be an American. Those who use their power to prohibit peaceful gatherings or use their power to prohibit the freedom of speech is exhibiting fascist, communistic tendencies. And as an American, fascism and communism has no place in our city. Finally, as someone who sees the benefits of free enterprise and supporting local businesses, there is a concern for anyone who attempts to tell what business owners can or cannot do as long as they follow the letter of the law. Local businesses, for every dollar that is spent in a local business, 70 cents goes back to the economy, creating a thriving community. So as a proud American, a local pastor, I really pray that Sebring's Council does not violate anyone's constitutional right to gather. Our council does not violate free speech. It does not get in the way of local businesses to continue making our beautiful city great. That may be what places in Hong Kong do, but that should not be what takes place here in Sebring, located in the United States. Thank you for allowing me this time.
Thank you, Reverend Miller. Okay, next here, how about Gustavo Ibanez? Wants to speak on the CRA? Come right on up. I think we know you.
You remember me?
Here I do. Be nice tonight now.
I'm always nice. My name is Gustavo Ibanez. I'm a business owner, investor, I'm builder here in Sebring.
Bring that a little bit lower.
I'm short.
You're the man.
Anyhow, I came here April 5th, complained about the CRA. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
That I own a building, 109 West Central Avenue. I bought that building to make Sebring downtown better. I didn't buy the building waiting for any handouts, like I was told last meeting. I bought the building in inspiration of the unfair CRA decisions on giving hundreds of thousands of dollars away at their own discretion with nobody even overseeing them. That's being said, you guys, I told you guys over here that I own a 97-year-old building. It's called also the Tobin Building, the last building ever built in the circle. You guys told me, I said, what's any programs on the CRA for preservation of historical buildings? They're giving hundreds of thousands of dollars away in the circle to revive them. But they're not helping the existing buildings with the proposed business plan. They offer me $1,000 to paint the whole building. Just the boom alone is $1,200. Anyhow, you guys advised me, go and get with the CRA. Remember that one?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, immediately, next day, I went to the CRA office, where Christy Vasquez never to be found. I went 3 times. Of course I was upset, because my time is as valuable as anybody else's time. I was upset. I said, she's never here. Because of that, there's a city board member named Tracy, wonderful woman. I met her next to my business. And I told her, listen, I'm trying to get an appointment with the CRA, as the city council has told me. And she never worked to be seen. She said, what is it for, Gus? I said, I want to show you guys my business plan for that building. Oh, bring me the business plan, Gus. I'm going to get you that meeting. I brought her the business plan. Next day, I get an email from Christy Vasquez. Give me an appointment. And 2 days later, at Mr. Lydell's office at 11 o'clock. I said, great. I broke copies of my business plans. From the moment I sat in that chair, Mr. Lydell was, oh no, he wouldn't even talk to me. So there's no point for me to meet this meeting then. So he starts stalling me. Just for what? To call the police on me, to give me a verbal warning of no trespassing in the CRA office because he doesn't like me. I was upset at Christy Vasquez. Was at any moment I was a threat to anybody in that office? No. Do I have the right to be upset after 3 visits to get an appointment? Yes. Not happy with that, Mr. Lydell, on my business plan says I'm going to open a sandwich shop.
You're past the 3 minutes, now go ahead.
Okay, let me go ahead. Mr. Lydell did this. He called the city official, building official, sent text messages, accusing me of building. Here's his copy of his text messages.
Well, you do get a little animated, so there's the possibility, well, no, let's be honest about this. There's a possibility that people could be very intimidated. I've been a policeman for 47 years. You wouldn't intimidate me, but you might Christy Vasquez, and you might someone else from the CRA. So what I'm asking you...
I don't carry a weapon? I never had a weapon?
No. Your animation, just the way you get yourself upset.
Do you say that to a white man, or is it because he's Hispanic?
Wow. Oh, please, no, that's no better than that.
Oh my.
We're trying to address the issue that he had at that meeting, so you can talk next.
Color that they're too animated.
Absolutely not. I said he was just animated.
That's not appropriate.
Now, you're taking the words and you're mixing them up. Let's not do that. That's wrong. That was not my intention. I swear to you.
Wow.
Go right ahead.
I want the
Mr.
whole
Banez.
membership of people present here to go and check when they have the plumbing building away. Check those applications. And ask yourself, how come they gave it to the, whatever people, the gourmet goodies? We didn't even have the money, and they bail out on you guys. I proposed to get that building. Why didn't they give it to us? Because we're Hispanics, most likely. Anyhow, going to the next subject. Why Mr. Lydell, after he read my business plan on the Tobin building, look what he wrote. That's what my proposed plan for the building.
Which part, where it says, does
Read
Gus
the whole
have a
thing.
permit to do the work? Is that the part?
We're not performing any work. He's accusing me.
No, I'm asking you a question. Is that what the part you're referring to?
Right.
Where he says, does Gus have a permit to do the work at 101 Circle Park?
Yeah, we're not doing any work there.
Looks like the same scope of work minus a distillery that Don is doing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Keep on reading the messages.
okay.
That was a proposed business plan for supposedly for them to put in the next year budget any money aside for programs on those buildings and businesses. Why spend hundreds of thousands of dollars giving buildings away instead of helping local business in the circle to grow?
Right.
So Mr. Lydell, attitude and conduct is not acceptable. I'm not going to tolerate any harassment from him or any discrimination. Thank you.
Do you have, well, don't go away, hang on a second. Do you have an idea of how we might be able to get you and Mr. Lydell and Ms. Vasquez together to discuss this and maybe come to some resolution?
I can't even go by the office. I got a verbal.
Well, no, what I'm sorry. I have a suggestion.
Okay.
The suggestion might be, Mr. Bishop is the CRA liaison. I can't speak for him, but he might be able to make some time available from his schedule to sit down with you guys.
Absolutely.
And maybe be the intermediary and maybe do it at a neutral location at City Hall with our city administrator sitting there, so that we have some balance and some understanding of exactly what you're looking for and what we might be able to accomplish.
If I don't get play again, like Mr. Lydell play me, calling the cops on me to give me a verbal warning of a public
Well,
office.
I can't speak to why he called the cops, to be honest with you. So,
Well,
hang on
he's here.
one second here.
Bring him over here.
Mr. Ibanez, as I recall, at a CRA board meeting, you came to the board, you said you had a business plan, and you wanted to present that to them, and they ultimately said that yes, that you could do that. I think it was maybe the July timeframe when they reevaluate what their various grant opportunities would be. Is that something that you have submitted to the CRA? And we're not in July yet, so maybe I misrecall
I have
the time.
different business.
frame.
With the CRA, that was the plan, and they told me, Tracy told me, bring the plan so they can read it on time to see if they can put it on the July's schedule for the budget. That's what the plan I was talking about.
Right. We're just not yet in July. That's my
No, I
point.
brought the plan for the kind of study and see if they can include that on July and give me more feedback on it. That includes the development of 2 restaurants in the circle. That's what we're looking for, right? Help business owners.
Absolutely.
I don't get any help. I get being attacked.
Sure.
Okay.
I hear you. So, are you willing to sit down
Anytime.
then with?
I can give me my phone number, my email address. I'm open for business. I'm a business person.
I would be very happy to meet with you, sir.
I would be a pleasure for me, man.
Well, naturally, you'd have to meet with him individually because he's the
that's
CRA
right.
liaison, and the both of you can't meet together because of the government and sunshine law. So, you can speak with her individually.
Yes, ma'am.
I will
No
do
problem.
She likes breakfast.
Anytime.
breakfast.
I'm not a good cook, but I will try.
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Could I just add one quick thing?
Absolutely.
I asked our city attorney here to hand me a copy of the ordinance here. And the city ordinance, is this the city ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Section 14.8 on C, violation by males and/or females, unlawful for any person while on the premises of a commercial establishment located within the city to expose to public view his genitals, pubic area, buttocks, anus, or anal cleavage, or to employ any device or covering intended to give the appearance of, or, and it goes on. But what I was looking at here is buttocks, because clearly at this burlesque show, there were buttocks. Well, I'm just reading the ordinance here.
Propose a new ordinance.
Wasn't that ordinance established in the 1980s?
Probably prior to that.
Probably prior to that.
When it references 1981, that was the codification, the first codification, so it may well have been long prior to 1981.
That's also stating that if you were a massage therapist and you were getting someone's butt massaged in a commercial building, that you couldn't actually remove the towel. That's kind of,
I think that's a little different.
Just let's do one at a time here. Hang
You
on.
said yourself things are changing.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Well, hey,
Yeah.
we need a little bit of order here. If you have something you want to say, I'll call you up individually. This lady's had her hand up over here for the longest time. Come on up. Tell us who you are.
Thank you. Hello, thank you.
My name is Laura Wade, and I was born here in Sebring, and I went to school at Sebring High School, and I left for 10 years. I have a theater degree, and I went to University of Alabama for graduate school for theater. I've devoted most of my life to teaching in the arts. I also own, and I run a program, the children's program at the theater, and I'm very involved there. I also own Pure Grit in Avon Park with my husband. We've had 2 businesses in Sebring. We had a Pure Grit here, and I had a dress shop downtown. And then Tiffany and I are now doing the Diving Girl Diner, and I came right from work. I probably smell. I'm sorry. And so we are doing that in Avon Park. But I really wanted to be concise about what I wanted to say, and it was about the arts specifically. So here at Highlands Lakeside Theater, we've been around for a very long time, and we've done shows like Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, which if you've ever seen the film with Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton, it's adorable, and it won, but it is about whores in a whorehouse, and it won it won an Academy Award, it's won Tony Awards, it's won lots of awards. We've done it here, it was very successful. And you do wear tights and things, but it is, they wore things. I wasn't in it, but they wore things. They did cabaret here, and this is all within your city limits. We've done Chicago here. These are things. We've done Gypsy, which is actually about burlesque. And so I feel like it is a place where art, if you look at, like you walk your halls out here and you see modern art. And modern art, if you think of like Georgia O'Keeffe, if you look at her flowers, you can't look at her flowers and not see female genitalia. Every art critic will tell you that. She was born in the late 1800s. And if someone had said, that is not art, and I deem that pornographic, and I deem that not something, we would not have modern art. She is considered the mother of modern art. And so what I'm saying is some of these things that were successful back in the 80s and have been accepted 40 years ago, and we've done them here in Highlands County and they've been accepted, are not that much different than something like a burlesque show, because it is a period of theater that you study in the arts. It is a performance art. It is different once clothes are completely taken off. That becomes something else. And so I did not attend the show. But I do feel that there is a slippery slope when trying to create a city ordinance for you to say what is artistic and what is not artistic, what is sex. Do you see what I'm saying? So I feel like you have to be very clear, and it needs to be illegal. It needs to be a legal stipulation, because you could come down and see something we do at the theater and say, well, now my judgment is going to say you can't do this and you can't do that. You don't want to be in that position, and we don't want you in that position. We have businesses here, like it has already been said, there were tickets sold to this event. It isn't marketed to children. It isn't marketed even really to families. It may be marketed to couples. And so, and to have one person's opinion, I understand sunshine laws. You can't get together and talk about whether this is something we want to bring up at council. If it's brought up at council, and I also appreciate the fact that you want to take your job seriously and you want to do something good for your city. I've been a Chamber of Commerce director, and I believe in serving. I've served on boards. I believe in that, and I believe in that, doing something good for your community. But at the same time, I really want everyone else, as well as you, to question how far you want to go with something like this. And if it is just to call something burlesque, you can do a show similar to that and call it something else, and then is it within your ordinance? Do you see what I'm saying? So I think you have to be very clear about the road you're going down, because I'm concerned artistically about our community and our freedoms. So that's it.
Okay, before you leave, let me make just one comment again.
Yes.
Our city police department stayed for the whole show. You were definitely in compliance. They found no violations. Art is of the eye of the beholder. God bless you.
Thank you. And
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Jeff Shue, are you here? Come on up.
Tom, this lady's still wanting to talk.
I'm sorry, hang on, Jeff, 1 second. I think I made a mistake here. Somebody else had their
Yeah.
hand up, wanted to speak about burlesque. Was it? Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I saw your hand up and I neglected. We got 2?
Did you want to speak?
Now, we're all talking the same thing, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then the gentleman will be, I'm sorry.
This lady,
Go right ahead.
This lady by Mr. Cazzo, she also wanted to
I'm
speak.
sorry, I don't see who you're talking about.
The lady by Mr. Cazzo.
Go ahead, ma'am. Tell us who you are, please.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Quigg, and I have been in Sebring pretty much my entire life.
You have to speak up.
I'm sorry. My name is Jennifer Quigg, and I have been in Sebring pretty much my entire life. I've gone to work, started working in Sebring at Red Lobster when I was 17 years old. I've gone to school in Sebring, gone to college, got my AA degree in Sebring. I was proposed to in Sebring. I was married at the Kenilworth Hotel. My daughter was born in Sebring, and I have continued to live in this community. And I am now working 2 jobs in this community to support, and one of them is Monserrat Wine Bar at this current moment. And I am going to school to be a massage therapist, and I wanted to address this ordinance, just as Mary had mentioned earlier, that this ordinance, it's something that you really do have to ask how far you're going to go, because not even to deem for sexual purposes at all. This ordinance does restrict someone for a medical purpose, to undrape someone's gluteals in order to help them alleviate pain. Lower back pain, one of the main causes of lower back pain, and I can guarantee you 50% of the people in this room experience it, is the gluteals. And to restrict someone to say that in a commercial building you cannot show a buttock, that's absurd. That I don't want to say that's absurd because I want to keep my composure, but for a medical purpose, that to me is absurd. I mean, a mother breastfeeding her child would not be able to take the safety of a commercial building to breastfeed her child, whether she chooses to be undraped or not undraped, which is completely her choice. Is said that she cannot take the safety of a commercial building in order to feed her child, that she has to go out in public to whoever can be around her. She doesn't know if she's safe, but she can choose a commercial building that she does feel safe to do that.
Absolutely.
And so in those terms, and I want to make it brief, I am going to school so that I can bring my business back to Sebring, and I want to see Sebring grow. And I'm working 2 jobs and going to school at the same time in order to make that a future for myself, so that not only can I do it, but my daughter can grow up in a place where she feels free to express herself in whatever way that she deems fit. And I do agree that this ordinance, it needs some reshaping, or it needs some hands off from our council members, because it goes way too deep into waters of censorship, not just in a sensual manner, in an artistic manner, but in a medical manner, in a manner between a mother and their child. Thank you.
I actually think you have a very good point there, that we should at least take a good look or compare our ordinance to those that have been tried and true. This ordinance has not been tried many times that I'm aware of. In fact, I was the police chief here for almost 19 years. Guess how many times we've tried that ordinance? None. So you're on the cutting edge. I spoke with our city attorney today about that, and I think a good plan going forward would be to get with other municipalities, see how they handle that, and I absolutely agree that for medicinal purposes and such, that should be in there as an exception to whatever there could be a violation. So thank you. Thank you very much for that. So this gentleman over here has been going nuts. Come on up. Come on.
I don't even need that.
No, you have to. I'm sorry. It's part of the ordinance.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody for being patient and staying here on for the last few hours.
Tell us who you are,
I'm
sir.
Charles Howard. I am a combat veteran. I served my country in very high capacities. I've seen the world, 15 different countries. I'm also a boat captain. I have a 4-year degree in criminal justice, former law enforcement.
Excellent.
This community that I've just stumbled across from a friend, the most loving, caring community, and love wins, right? What I feel what's going on is assumption, a violation of assumption and dogmas that are based in rooted beliefs that are being challenged through hearsay and not actually experiencing the community, because you'd be welcome there. You would absolutely be welcome there with love. And there's nothing nasty, dirty, whatever assumption or trickster, delusional things are going on in certain people's heads. I don't understand that we've come to this, but it's obvious that this is coming to a crossroads where things do need to happen and be more progressive. And I'm watching videos of the racetrack doing bikini modeling contests.
Sure.
And so the bottom line is there's a bunch of group of young people in this community that are going to take your spots eventually. And if you're going to try to censor a community where they're not going to progressively grow with the rest of the country, it's probably going to come back to haunt you or bite you, because it's eventually this is where we're at. We're at a head. So something has to give, and not go on hearsay or assumption.
Well, hang on a second. We're not.
No, I'm speaking in general to everyone.
You have one person
Right.
that has a personal opinion.
One person.
Who happens to be one
And
of
that's
the
how-
elected officials.
Right.
So be careful with the broad brush.
Right. Absolutely. I roger that.
Thank
So what I would say is one person did all this by hearsay, by sharing it with the community because they're close-knit people, and they decided they want to go up against like warfare, spiritual warfare. I can tell you this is a very spiritual community with very strong Christian values and all different values, whether it's yoga or practicing health and fitness and mind, body, and spirit. It's almost what Jen said, absurd. It's appalling. It's actually kind of hilarious. It's trickster. It's coyote. It's silly. And if we would, it's Native American totems. Yeah, we're very spiritual. Where we can just come together and use a little bear medicine, introspection, looking back on things, looking deep within, working together, very high in the totem. And then comes eagle, creative force, and then we can create a community that can still happen, that can still exist, where maybe there's a permit pulled for a private party with tickets sold to 21 and over. It doesn't have to be black and white. There can be gray area, because that's what law is. Blind justice. I know. I have criminal justice.
Spirit of the law.
All right. So that's all I really have to say is I'm not even a citizen of the city.
And you're the closest to 3 minutes we've had up here yet.
And I am done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom.
Thank you very much.
Tom, can I just say something real quick?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Councilman.
so I typically don't speak a whole lot, so this has really kind of got me a little bit, worked up. But I'm a patron of both of the Cadzell's businesses all the time. I'm in both of them pretty frequently. I have never seen anything distasteful. I have never attended one of these events, but I have never seen anything that I felt to be illegal. And as far as I'm concerned, our police representation didn't either the other night. So as far as I'm concerned, the conversation's done.
Right. I
mean,
appreciate
I don't know what we're still trying to accomplish here.
Yeah.
I'm looking at these pictures, and I can remember as a kid, I didn't see much worse than or different from this in a Sears catalog.
Yeah.
I mean, whether or not you hold on, whether or not you
you're
agree
in the
with
lingerie section of the Sears
catalog, yeah.
All men are that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, whether or not you like it or not, whatever. If you don't like it, just don't go.
If it's legal, it's legal. If it's not, it's not. Young lady, oh, there you are.
I
You would
can't-
still,
I'm-
you would
I'm
still
here.
like to speak on this
And I
subject.
probably will be the only one that can be under 3 minutes, so.
Go right. Thank you. Tell us
My
who
name
you are.
is Lois Tejada, and I live here within the city limits of Sebring. I came to this Sebring with my parents in 1954, so now you know. And I've never left. I have 3 siblings who have all been here this whole time. And between the 4 of us, we've raised 11 children who are all living in this city except for 2. And of those, all but 2 have married local people from Highlands County, and we all still live here. And most own their own businesses here in town. I understand that you represent, you committee here, the will of the people here in Sebring. And I just want you to know that I am very much opposed to this type of entertainment coming into Sebring. And not so much for me, but for my grandchildren and for all the other youth of this town who, whether we like it or not, are going to wonder what's going on, and they will know about it. they will know about it, and in time they'll want to, I guess, be part of that whole idea. So that's all I want to say, and thank you very much.
You're very welcome, ma'am. Thank you. One lady on the back there, and then Mr. James Dean, the real James Dean.
This lady in the blue shirt
Yeah,
also
she's
has to
coming
speak
up
too.
here. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see her put her hand up.
Yeah,
I can't be everywhere.
Yeah, she put her hand
I'll
up.
tell you guys, arm wrestle for the microphone. Who's next? All right, go right ahead.
Well, my name is Susan Stagner. I moved here to Sebring, Florida in 2011 from the state of New Jersey. I live here with my 4-year-old special needs daughter, my husband, and 3 dogs. And I'd like to talk about the burlesque thing and the fashion shows in general. I have modeled in Tiffany's fashion show, and there's nothing distasteful about it. I've worn corsets and tutus and everything like that. And things like that help bring people's self-esteem out, like me. I've had a self-esteem issue. And her pulling me into it, it broke me out of my shell. There's nothing wrong with it. Some parts of us, yeah, we're covered, like myself, you know, and it helps bring revenue into this town. Like George said, you know, every cent that she gets, it goes back into the town. So, and with burlesque, there's nothing bad about it. You know, it's not like they're completely nude. They're covered up. They're wearing pasties and stuff like that. So I don't see a problem with it is my thing. And that's what kind of like upsets me a little bit. So I agree with Tiffany. If you want to see it, you see it. If not, don't go. So that's basically how I feel about it from that point of view. And for somebody to say, well, you need to take that out of town, it's for charity. It's a charity event, you know, and you make friends from it as you go. I've made tons of friends here, tons of friends. Bob and Tiff have been great people. They contribute to the town just as well as anybody else. And in my opinion, I don't see a problem with the burlesque. I don't see a problem with the fashion shows. I don't see a problem with any other events. Tiffany does also say at her at every event, it's a private event, and things like that. You know, children shouldn't be there, and if you have children, find a sitter. It's not that hard, you know. Instead of focusing on what she's doing, other things in this town should be focused on, like things for kids and everything. So that's what, from a parent's perspective and stuff like that. So that's my voice on the opinion. I have no problem with the events that she does. I've went to the events. They're fun, you know. It brings more people. It brings outsiders into this town to it, where they're like, oh, well, this is a town that I could live in safely and everything, and you know, just I could also do activities with my kids here. Granted, that's not it's not family friendly, and she makes it aware to you of that. So in my opinion, I don't see a problem with it. And if, like I said, if you don't want it in your town, then you shouldn't pay for a ticket to go. That's my opinion on it.
Thank you, ma'am. Young lady in the blue shirt.
Hello, my name is Misty Rose. I'm the producer of the burlesque show. And I'm not going to apologize for my tone because I'm upset. And I'm going to ask a direct question to a council member. When you went to the show, is there anything else you would like to share with people that you did while you were there?
Well, I went because I felt like I wanted a first-hand evidence or first-hand view. I wasn't sure. You know, I was just going by what other people were calling me up and saying. So I wanted to go for just so I could say I went.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, I thought it was a lovely atmosphere, and the people seemed very cordial and nice to each other, and they were very nice to me. And the food looked terrific, the presentation, everything was very good, but I think it gets on a slippery slope with the burlesque part of it.
Can I repeat the question? Was there anything else you did at the show that you have not shared with anybody here?
No.
So,
I mean, I can't think
Can
of
I ask you a
anything
question?
else.
Did you
Sure.
hand a bag of books to one of my performers?
I did.
Yes. So that's what I want to discuss.
I did.
I want to discuss she came into a private ticketed event for adults, handed a book. Would you like to explain what the book was about?
Well, the book is about a lady who I met who was an exotic dancer, and she became a Christian. She's a friend of
Yes.
mine, and she is just a wonderful lady, and she has taught me a lot over the years about burlesque, exotic dancing, different things.
She's an exotic dancer, or is she a burlesque performer? There's two different things.
Yes, she explained that to me. I talked to her on the
Because
phone
I'm
today.
both. So we need to make sure we understand the difference between the two.
She was an exotic dancer, buck naked.
Okay.
You know, and she became a Christian.
What was your intention of handing her that book? Because when I read the synopsis of what the book was about.
Yes, you know, I just felt like I wanted to give an alternative to. I don't know what goes on.
Because you made an assumption about why we do the art that we do. And that's what I'm talking about. The assumption that we are broken women that are being exploited against our will.
Well, you know,
that's we can bring out the book and we can have that discussion. My issue is when I bring artists into a place that is safe.
Yes.
When we change our costumes to make sure we respect what you told us to do. The amount of work that was put in to change our costumes so we could fit underneath the ordinance. That was time and respect to you guys. Okay. So when you walk in and deliberately disrespect the performers by handing them something, by saying, I think you should change your lifestyle.
Actually, I did not say that.
You
I didn't
handed,
say a thing.
You handed her a book that said,
okay.
this is the life that she had.
Here's the thing. Let me just say, this business.
We're 3 minutes.
Okay, sorry, Paulette. Okay, the one thing I want to talk about is the buttocks. Because that's a whole different thing. The buttocks. Everyone has a different size ass. Let's be honest. So when my performers change their costumes and you say you see their buttocks, when your orders doesn't specify how much of your derriere should be covered. So when I'm trying to abide by the rules, I need more. If you want it to be a grandma panty that is out here, I need to know. But once I squat, it disappears. I have abided by what you're saying, so do not say the buttocks were shown. We did everything that we were supposed to do. So don't tell the public, oh, well, the buttocks were shown. How much of it was shown? Would you like to specify how much of anybody?
I have it on my video.
That's another thing I want to bring up.
Yes. No, not during the show.
Sorry, it's gonna have to get. I apologize for that. That's another thing. When you go to a show that is for artists, and is a ticketed event. Yes. It is ticketed so everyone is paid. Yes. The moment you take out your cell phone, after I repeated it 4 times.
Yeah, and I didn't take it out at that time. I took it when everyone else was taking pictures of the performers.
You were taking videos.
When
and I said you can take photos,
was
not videos.
Taking pictures of the performers, not.
And I'm not saying this as an attack you. I'm saying that we did everything we could to be respectful of what we were told when I gave the information. And then I believe that you came in with the intention.
Okay, let's get a little order back here right now. I know you guys are going to go back and forth with this. It's somewhere in between. You might come to an agreement. However, we do have other people that need to speak tonight, including at least these 2 other folks that are right here that put in for the agenda request forms. You can go ahead and finish up, please. I just want you to finish up.
My thing is, when we're talking about people's opinions and we're talking about it, you have done things towards the performers that are disrespectful and could be hurtful. So I am saying, please don't do that. I would never walk into the church and hand a book out and say, hey, could you change the way that you think?
I didn't say that.
You didn't say it, but that's what the intention of the book. Handing it to a performer, that's what the intention
You know
was.
what? I'm not going to apologize for
that. And
that.
I'm not asking you to. I'm saying if I'm going to respect you, please respect the people around you. Especially because all the performers
I thought I was. And you know, actually, that girl was so sweet to me.
That's my best friend. Yes.
And the girl in pink that did the thing on the trapeze thing or whatever it was, so sweet. She gave me a big hug and
yes, she told me you were lovely. But I don't appreciate my performers coming up to me and saying I felt offended and disrespected.
Okay.
Well, I'm very sorry.
Okay, well, I'm sorry I have to cut you off, but we're like way over 4 minutes. Mr. James Dean, I think. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'm in the minority tonight, but I think that we need to look at the other side as well. I'm James Dean of Sebring. A month ago, a lady came to Wednesday coffee hour at the Weigel House Historical Museum. She and her husband had recently moved to Sebring from a coastal city and went to Cirque Wine Bar for the first time. She said they were shocked by a burlesque show that reminded them of the city they left behind. This has now expanded to a second bar. Sunday, Faded Bistro had a Sunday $50 per person burlesque show. The Sunday show was likely a test to see what Sebring citizens will accept before moving burlesque to the two bars on the circle Sebring is giving away. CRA's short-term solution to economic recovery is to build more bars. The Waterfront Redevelopment Concept Plan Number 1, published by CRA December 14th, 21, approved by City Council, etc., replaced the historic Clovellian Weigel House by a bar and a boutique. Both buildings are religious heritage sites that should be respected and protected, not commercialized to raise the tax base. Long ago, I lived in historic Boston on Beacon Hill. The adjacent commercial streets, Charles and Beacon Street, had fine small shops, restaurants and offices, all in good taste. Across Beacon Street was a Boston Common. A park that belonged to the citizens of Sebring, was used by all and protected from redevelopment. It was Boston's equivalent of Sebring's waterfront. Across the Common and far from Beacon Hill was the red light district, commonly called the combat zone. I had to occasionally drive through that area to reach a business on the other side, so remember the appearance. Anyone who has lived in a large city will recall similar red light districts. It was a seedy part of town with rundown buildings, strip joints with neon signs, extolling burlesque shows, X-rated movies, shops selling pornography and sexual accessories. Prostitutes and drug dealers were there, with cheap hotels to accommodate. Boston tolerated this activity as long as it stayed in the red light district. It is hard to believe CRA is bringing the red light district to Sebring Circle. CRAs were originally formed to eliminate slums and blighted areas, not bring the slums and blighted areas to Sebring Circle. Anyone who has lived on or visited big cities has passed through such districts. Big body burlesque bars quickly bring in related businesses, sellers of sexual accessories, media, and other borderline businesses. Because the sex trade is so profitable, organized crime moves in. I can I can predict the future, as can most city residents who have seen the results of the sex trade. I do not want to fight this battle. My purpose is to preserve the heritage of Sebring, its history and houses, carry on the goals and ideals of George Sebring, and prevent the misuse of CRA funds that have brought investigations to other Florida cities. I would like to reach out to Sebring's religious community, the Baptist, Methodist, and Church of the Nazarene, that will be most affected by their nearness to the circle, and scores of other churches carrying on George Sebring's mission in Sebring.
You're at your 3 minutes.
Seb-
beyond.
what?
You're beyond your 3 minutes already. Go ahead and wrap it up
All right,
if you would.
okay, I'll finish up.
Thank you.
Sebring CRA business decisions are made to increase tax revenues, of which CRA received a portion, not to increase the quality of life for so. The bar owners will point out that partial nudity is not illegal and by some should not be considered immoral. The effect on Sebring, once the door is open to the sex trade, however, will be devastating. Sebring will be named for Sebring. Sebring will be renamed from Sebring, the heart of old Florida, to Sebring, Sin Center of Central Florida.
Thank you, Mr.
Sebring.
Hey, James, I think you said enough. I think this is, we're getting into the dirt. I want to say something, Tom, if you don't mind.
Hang on a second. Folks, hang on.
I
Can I
think,
get some order?
you know,
Mayor would like to address some
we had a
issues.
prayer of civility when we started, because I knew this thing was going to get kind of out of hand, and I appreciate your views. I appreciate y'all's views. Everybody has a different view, and that's kind of what makes the world go round. I think what really I'm appalled at is this right here. And it's not the pictures in here, it's that we're attacking two businesses that were legally doing what they were gonna do. They didn't break the law. This is the way they don't clap it. You don't have to clap at this, but they weren't breaking the law. But here we have two businesses that are part of our town. Is it right? Did they do what is right? How are you gonna define that? Are you gonna write an ordinance like you said, and the young lady said about the hours? You know, there's Laura was here, Laura Wade. I mean, there are family restricted plays at Highlands Little Theater.
Oh, yeah.
So you write an ordinance, now they've got to come to the city to get that approved to do those plays. So we're really getting kind of mixed up here and deep, and it's a lot of emotional things, but I really think we do not need this kind of attacking businesses in a public forum.
City
When-
council didn't print this?
No,
did.
absolutely not.
Distributed here.
I printed it and distributed it.
And I think that was wrong. I'm sorry. That was wrong to attack businesses that have done nothing wrong other than that they violate the views that the person has. And I respect your views.
But only because it's gonna move to the circle.
It's,
That's
you
where
don't
I
know it's
got-
going to move to this. You don't know what Bob's going to do. Bob doesn't have, he hasn't put out a list of what
He
he's
has
going to
a
do.
contract.
He's got a contract to put an Irish pub in there.
Yeah.
And y'all can have it back.
So how does
can have
that,
it back.
hang on, Bob, you assume things will happen. You assume they're going to have this at the Diving Diner up in Avon Park?
I would hope not.
I don't think so. You know, I think they know their limits, and I think they know
I would
that.
hope
But I think we need to be very careful when we attack a business, and especially in a public forum, that we're doing it for the right reason, and this was not the right reason here.
I disagree strongly, but that's fine. But
that's your opinion.
I do want to clarify two things. I gave 4 books and I put them in a nice pink little bag and just handed them to the lady.
Thank you
Okay?
all for your time.
If that wasn't a good idea. But let me say this about the videoing. I did not pull my camera out until it was the photo time.
You were never told that you could take videos. You were told that you could come take photos with the performers if you wanted to, and you started taking videos.
Well,
of
I took-
everything
I-
and
I
everyone
didn't-
to document or make your notes or whatever you were doing. It was very disrespectful.
Well-
It was against the rules of a private event.
Okay, folks, listen, I do have 2 more requests here from business from the audience. I'd like to go ahead and move ahead with that. I think we pretty much beat this horse, to be perfectly honest with you. Mr. Jeff Shoup, no relation?
No C. It's John C. Shoup.
I'm
not
SCH, you're SH. And
SH.
I, on a weekly basis, have to explain that we're not related to somebody, so.
You can be the mayor tonight if you want.
Done. All righty. So, my name is Jeff Shoup, again, no relation. I'm a Sebring native and resident. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a voter. I'm a healthcare expert. I'm a lifelong devoted homosexual and husband to a man with whom I've had the privilege to share 20 years of my life with. Today, I'm here to discuss pride. If you're gay, raise your hand. If you have a gay family member, raise your hand. If you love someone who is gay, raise your hand. This is what pride's about, right here. Now, as I understand it, there is a small minority of Sebring residents who are opposed to Sebring's Pride event being hosted by the ever-gracious Tiffany and Bob Kadzow, owners of adored local establishments, Faded and Monsterk, as well as other upcoming exciting ventures. Tiffany and Bob have poured so much of their heart and soul into revitalizing downtown and bringing life back to this community. And for that, they should be applauded, not unjustly attacked in the court of ill-informed public opinion. And why, may I ask, is there such fear of the gays? Everyone knows when the gays arrive, the quality of your restaurants improve. All those cute little boutiques you love come popping up. Your property values increase.
Yes, it does.
And your overall quality of life becomes way more fabulous. But all jokes aside, we invest in communities who invest in us. It's a very simple principle. So this opposition to pride led me to believe maybe there is a misunderstanding of the meaning, so I'd like to take a few moments to enlighten everyone here in the building today. Let me tell you what pride is. Pride is for everyone. Pride is for those who celebrate individuality and personal liberty. Pride is for those who understand the importance of unity and community. Pride is for those who understand, I already hit that part. Pride is who understand the importance of building coalitions, lifting each other up. Gay, bi, straight, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, old, young, pride is for everyone. Now that said, if your approach to life is to judge others through a flawed veil of moral hypocrisy and superiority, pride is not for you. You know, there's so much speculation these days about what's wrong with America. And I think we can boil it down to one key issue. No one knows how to mind their own business anymore. Mind your own business. It's a very, very simple concept. We did it for decades. But the onset of the internet and social media have given everyone a platform to espouse their views, no matter how uninformed, archaic, myopic, or downright vile those views may be. So this evening, I am proposing a radical idea. If pride is not your cup of tea, don't attend. It's truly that simple. You can stay home, you can go shopping, you can go to the lake, you can spend the day at Disney World, you can literally do anything you want to do because attendance at Pride isn't mandatory. You're free to go about your own life just as we're free to go about ours. If your personal agenda consists of tearing others down and telling everyone else how to live, you will not understand the importance of pride. You will not understand pride if you've never lived a regulated existence. You will not understand pride if you've never lived a marginalized existence. You will not understand pride if you have not lived a shamed or rejected existence. You will not understand pride if you haven't made a tremendous personal sacrifice to live your authentic life. Pride marks an opportunity for us to remember that our struggle isn't over, and that being a member of this community, being LGBTQ, is still a crime in 72 countries, 8 of which is punishable by death. We live in a country where we can still be fired from our jobs and evicted from our homes for being gay. Pride is a time for our community, our families, and our allies to celebrate what makes us uniquely us, and we welcome everyone from Sebring and Highlands County community to join us in that celebration. Now, in closing, allow me to just address the grievances of a small, practically insignificant minority with an undeserved sense of entitlement, who believe America is their country and the rest of us are just uninvited guests. Because I want to be 100% Baccarat crystal clear. We are not looking for an invitation to sit at your table. We built our own table decades ago. A table that is void of judgment, overflowing with love and acceptance, and a table at which all are welcome. Because Pride, whether you agree or not, is happening. It's always happening. Pride is not just the month of June, it is our entire existence. And we will be proud, and we will say gay, bi, trans, queer, today and every single day. Because we are never going back.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff.
Mr. Shoup.
Hey,
Mr.
Jeff.
Shoup. Mr. Shoup.
Hey, Jeff.
Mr. Shoup.
Mr. Shoup needs to
would
talk
like
to Mr.
talk
I've
to
got a
you.
question.
Yes, sir.
I kind of take this a little bit personally, but have we done something that has said you can't hold the event, the city of Sebring?
My understanding is there's underlying currents within certain people of the community who are going to approach you about not allowing this event to go forward.
have you got, I know Tiffany did it last year, didn't she?
Which is still the plan for this year.
Is that, have you put in your, no, you have to have an event application. Everybody
Tiffany?
does. So if it's out on the street, let me ask you, I don't.
And we want to follow the rules.
I don't, wait a minute, but I don't think.
Not publicly and was not presented to you guys, but I did witness some social media where not only the burlesque flyer and the photo of us having our monthly poetry night at Mont Cirque, just encouraging people to come here and have a complaint, but I also witnessed some screenshots of our Pride Fest event page in some comments that were derogatory in inviting people to come here and speak out against that.
Social
and I wasn't
media?
sure if, yes.
Social media.
And
Not anybody up here, I certainly hope.
I was going to say, from the city
No,
side,
sir.
we
No.
don't, no matter what George says, we don't discriminate, George.
No.
And Chief
Not
didn't
anybody up
discriminate
here.
at all.
That
But
is
that's-
not where it came from.
That's
I
what
won't
I want to
be
make
speaking
sure
about where
everybody
it came
knows. It
from.
was not a city
not the city.
originated.
It was not anybody
Yep.
here city related.
Okay. I just want to make sure
And
that was
Jeff,
clear.
just for the record, if you know anybody that gets kicked out of a house or anything like that you mentioned, you call me.
Yes, sir.
I'll take it personally, and I'll take care of it.
I much appreciate
Promise
it.
you.
Thank you very much.
And by the way, We don't do any of this stuff up here for votes, guys. Do you know that the 5 city councilmen, one of which is not here tonight, we get paid a whole whopping $1 a year? Do you know that? We're not like the school board. We're not like the county commission. We don't make any. We're $1 a year. We do that out of the goodness of our heart because we care about this community. We care about every one of you out here. Mr. Cadzo, you're up. You're the last man standing. And I know you're upset. I'm watching your body language. So let's see. Because, by the way, I already have a breakfast date tomorrow morning at this brand new restaurant on Main Street in Avon Park. Has to have that lady that used to be at the motel.
The Reed's Motel.
I know all about it.
Yeah. Can you guys properly hear me?
Absolutely.
All right. My name is Bob Cadzo. I'm involved in one way, shape, or form with Faded Bistro and Beer Garden here in downtown, the Diving Girl Diner in downtown Avon Park, and the future Roanoke Hotel and Gavigan's Irish Kitchen and Pub on Circle Park Drive. My wife Tiffany, as you know, and Deborah own Mount Circle Wine Bar, also here in downtown Sebring. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I wrote this before because now I'm not sure I really want the opportunity to speak this evening, but it's my wife and I's anniversary and she wants me to come up here. It was my intention to quietly listen tonight. Councilperson Terry Mendel single-handedly changed my mind on that. I assure you that there are a few things I would rather be doing at this moment than addressing the council this evening. This is not really a choice. I had to speak for myself, my family, my friends, my business partners. I really would like to speak to two overlapping subjects, but first is the pushback against the downtown redevelopment, and second is the potential motivation for this pushback. Because of the length of the meeting tonight, I will only speak on the first, discussing the motivation of the concerned citizens opposed to us, our efforts downtown, and all the things that we've gotten an opportunity to hear people speak about tonight would be pure conjecture. Absolutely 0 people have asked to discuss any of our plans with me or any of my partners to my knowledge. No one has asked us about our plans on the circle. No one has ever mentioned a thing about burlesque before. Nobody has mentioned, nobody's mentioned any of these things. So this is all kind of very new for us. In recent weeks, I've been sadly surprised to learn in a very acute way what many people in this room and this community have been aware of for a long time. While there's a concerted effort to bring life, new activity, new businesses, and new revenue to the long-depressed downtown, there's also an effort to stifle this change, or maybe the type of change. Maybe we're that type of change that people don't want. It's possible. The City Council and the CRA did not invent these ideas, but instead are customizing some proven methods for revitalizing downtowns into something busier and happier. These techniques are proven and are the right thing for changing our town enough that people will congregate and socialize in and around our circle. Change is hard for many people, and seeing the sleepy downtown revitalized is not what some see for its future. We have likely 30 years or more of deteriorating, poorly maintained, and abandoned buildings. We likely have 30 years of a struggling and growing homeless community sleeping in the cracks and crevices of these same buildings. We want to change that. I am absolutely confused by the pushback. The community's had decades to organically improve the downtown situation. It hasn't really changed. This newer path we're all on together with the CRA is the correct path. I also absolutely and positively have a new appreciation for the City Council and its employees, for the Community Redevelopment Association, for the Tourism Development Council, and for anyone else tasked with making downtown Sebring and Highlands County in general a more diverse, vibrant, successful, safe, and thriving place for people to live and visit. It's hard to watch and listen to the naysayers of these efforts to improve our downtown. we should all ask ourselves, what's the motivation of these naysayers? We should ask them, why do they desire nothing more than what we have? Old buildings, old beautiful buildings are great. Old decrepit buildings are not. I speak for myself and my partners when I say that we are committed to pushing for the progress that the City Council in general, the CRA in general, and the community in general have envisioned and voted for. We have been a part of it, and we will continue to be a part of it. We will push for the progress with not just our voices here at a City Council meeting, but with our voices in the community, with our friends' voices, with our work ethic, with our votes, and with our wallets. Opinions on the CRA-funded projects and the city's public works projects will be many. Opinions definitely vary on the types of businesses we as a community are courting to revitalize this downtown. I'm quite confident that we indeed vary amongst even the 5 people that we've elected to represent us on this council. And that's okay. It's a good thing. It makes the council smarter and better as a whole, but at the end of the discussions and after the votes, it becomes your job to support the will of the council and the will of the people. If you, as an elected representative, are unwilling or unable to do that, you would do this community a favor by getting out of the way. Let someone cooperative and compromising take the elected position. Again, we are wholly committed. I hope you are too. We will need your support. All of you, we will need the support of everybody in this room. And not everybody, because clearly we don't have the support of everybody in this room. But if we do have the support of this council, let us know. And if we don't, let us know that too. Don't let us waste our time, effort, and money in downtown Sebring anymore. If this is our future, then we don't want anything to do with it. All right? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Okay, since I just came back from the restroom, I'm good for about 2 more hours. So, is there anybody else out here that would like to speak one last time? Yes, sir.
like a
Please
lot
come
of
up to the mic. Ma'am, you'll be next, and then we have to cut it off at that, to be perfectly honest with you, because I think we've heard pretty much everything we need to hear as far as the burlesque thing and our downtown development and all that. Not that I'm going to cut you off, but let's see if we can wrap up the night. Then I've got something very special I have to say at the end, so stick around.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christopher Davies. I live at 1127 Evanston Street. I am a citizen and taxpayer of the city of Sebring. I volunteer. I've dedicated my whole life to this community. I'm a paramedic and a volunteer firefighter. Ms. Mandela wants you to look at the people in this room.
Absolutely.
Your opinions are in the minority. The majority
Perhaps
wants
in
these
this room.
events here. Okay?
But I'm listening.
Pride's here to stay. The LGBT community in Sebring that has felt safe to become public in the last 4 years since Pride started is here to stay. We got a seat at the table, and we're not giving it back. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The lady in the second row. Now, by the way, folks, we do this the first and third Tuesday of every month. So
Not all of this.
Not all of this, but yeah. Yes, ma'am. Tell us who you are.
Hi, my name is Aisha Aliande, and I'm a homeowner in downtown Sebring.
Yes, ma'am.
So there are a couple of things that I just want to speak to, which will be under 3 minutes. But as far as the Caldwells are concerned, their establishments are pretty much the only place that I go to where I feel comfortable, and I don't feel like I am a woman that happens to be brown and receive microaggressions just from being in an environment or a community that seems to support microaggressions against people of color and people that may not be white, cisgender. And I'm not saying that you all speak to that. However, their establishments are places that I go to so very often because I feel safe there. Even as we were sitting here, when another woman came up and spoke to, I think, turning the lake or the park area into Diversity Park. Someone immediately behind me said, "Oh, here we go," which meant like when we speak about anything that is not white, male oriented, mainstream,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
That means that we don't want to talk about that. So that's what I sat with in this space in the last 3 hours. Someone behind me saying, "Here we go," because it made them uncomfortable. But as a person of color, every day is uncomfortable in an environment like this. So I wanted to just share that. And then it was really disheartening to hear that a book was handed out at a private performance to an artist that speaks to a woman becoming a Christian, because it implies that the said performance artist was not a Christian.
Exactly.
And that you, or maybe your peers, are the gatekeeper of Christianity and family life. So that was very disheartening to hear, that you handed a book to a performance artist because you felt that she needed to change her life, and you assumed something about her lifestyle that may have not been Christian. So that was unfortunate, and I just wanted to come and say that and thank the Cadzows for opening up establishments where I love to eat and feel safe and enjoy music and wine. And I do pray that our community has more businesses that employ everyone of all backgrounds, and then more businesses where everyone can feel safe.
Okay, that's it, last call. Anybody
Anybody
else?
Let me say something.
Okay, go ahead, miss.
I've sat up here and kept my mouth shut. I appreciate what everybody has said, but to speak to you, my fiance is brown. When we go into some restaurants, people look at us like we're a misfit or whatever. She's Puerto Rican. She's not quite as brown as you, but she's brown. She's got really
That's
curly hair.
microaggressions. Talking as
No,
brown as
no,
you,
no, no. I'm
that
just-
is a microaggression.
No, let me
I'm not.
finish. Let me
No, I'm
finish.
explaining to you what she was saying.
Oh, I
That's
know.
a
I
microaggression.
understand that, and that's
You
what I'm
don't
trying.
understand it because you went and specified the color of her skin.
No,
That
but
is-
no. I just want to explain
It is a
something.
microaggression.
We go into a restaurant and she feels very uncomfortable.
Because you understand that, but the
Yes, I
microaggression
understand.
you threw at her
No,
was
no, no.
inappropriate.
No, I wasn't meaning anything.
I know that, but I'm saying that's what her point is. If she
I
lives in a
understand.
town where she is being talked to in a disrespectful way, no one says anything. So when I hear it,
Okay.
I'm going to correct you. That's
Okay,
it.
I understand that, and that's what I was trying to say, is people do look at in this community different, very different. And things are changing. They're changing a lot, and we have to change with them. I've never been to their place. I have no idea, but I know I go to the beach and I see buttocks. You know, it doesn't matter if I go out of town or I go to the beach here. There's ladies that wear suits that show a lot. I'll be honest with you, I am a Christian man. I am an ordained minister, but I don't judge people. Okay? I just don't judge people. We are who we are. We live with we are accountable to the good Lord. That's who we're accountable to. So I just want you to know that we are here for everybody. We're not here for just a group of people. We're here for everybody. We appreciate y'all coming. We appreciate you talking to us, and we listen. And you're the one that's put us here. The voters, the citizens of Sebring, Florida, put us here, and we just we want to be for everybody. So, and please, I wasn't meaning anything. You know, I just wanted you to know I understand, not because who I am, but because of who I'm with. And there's places we don't go because she feels uncomfortable. So that's all I was trying to say. And it shouldn't be that way. It should not be that way.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Carlisle.
tell people this all the time. If I cut my arm and you cut your arm, we bleed the same color.
We're all God's children.
Amen. So.
Absolutely.
I do see one hand up in the back there. Go ahead, Reverend Miller.
Just like to address something that has nothing to do with everything else we were talking about. Again, Reverend George Miller, 310 Matlow Avenue. I sense that we may have just experienced something that may have to legally be looked into. There is the separation of church and state, and during a city council meeting, we just heard the gentle councilwoman say and heard that she attended a business handing out religious material. Now, it doesn't sound to me like you were there just as yourself, but you were there as a councilwoman representing council to do research. And the fact that you handed out religious information to me sounds like a direct violation of church and state. And I'm wondering if we now need to investigate that. It sounds like it could possibly be a lawsuit, and maybe a lawsuit that some of our business owners want to explore, because you, as a government official, brought religion into something that legally you never should have. Council may need to talk about this at their next meeting. Thank you for this time.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Okay, final note. Okay,
Is this being recorded? Because it looked like you stopped the recording when the burlesque talk started, and it should all be recorded.
We didn't stop recording.
that's up to Comcast. Are we still?
It's all recorded.
Yeah, it should all be.
If it stopped recording, it's not because we've done anything.
That all comes
We
from
don't stop
Comcast.
She was referring to the Zoom stream.
Yeah.
Oh,
He was attending
yeah.
earlier. That was
Yeah,
that's
this is
different.
still rolling. This is still rolling.
One last time, yes, ma'am. You were already up.
Jennifer Quigg again, and Aisha coming up and addressing about Diversity Park. I just wanted to say that I also agree with her and stand here as a woman who has like so much insane privilege, and I feel nervous to even speak. But I also want to say that it is really important, since we are talking about these issues, and there's a lot of things coming up right now about different people and different cultures and different races and different sexualities, that all of those people should be represented in Sebring's history. And all of those people should be represented when you are coming to visit any type of heritage from Sebring, not just for people coming to visit us, but also for the people that live in Sebring, so that they can see their own representation shown in our history. So that's all I wanted to say, but I don't know if I say that I second that or I agree with that or whatever, but I do agree with that, and I would really urge the council to look into that project.
Thank you,
So,
Ms.
yeah,
Quigg.
that's all. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And I have a comment to make, if possible.
Okay. I
Yeah.
get the last word, by the way, tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to say that I really appreciate y'all coming. I'm listening to what you have to say. However, I really haven't changed my opinion on this subject. I believe that the burlesque is the normalizing of the sexualization of women. I don't think it is a good thing, but that's my opinion. But I do want to say, I came to that burlesque show. They didn't know I was going. I came as a person who wants to help Sebring.
Did you tip the ladies?
Absolutely.
So you support
Oh,
their
yes.
art? Oh my God.
Oh no, those ladies. No, I did not tip those ladies, but the Kenra, or
Took money out of their pocket.
Okay. we're going to go ahead and conclude this city council meeting. It's a historic event tonight. Oh, boy.
No.
One more time, huh?
No, because I'm Hispanic. You criticize that I was
Yeah.
intimidated
Well,
because I talk with
for
my
the
hands.
record, hey,
You're talking about.
Hey, hang on a second. No. And I'd
Okay.
like to make sure that you know this, and especially that Reverend Miller knows this. Two of the very best friends, beloved friends in my life, were Hispanic, and I actually think that you, Reverend Miller, owe me an apology.
Right.
Go right ahead, sir.
I agree.
I was there holding the man's
Those
hand when he
eyeballs.
passed away.
Sir, you had 2 women of color tell you about microaggression.
Okay, thank you.
And we watched you walk out as a black woman was at the podium. I
Oh
don't
my
owe you
God.
I don't even know what you're
apology.
talking about. Come on,
I
let's.
gave an explanation.
Yeah.
of what was
Okay, sir, you're out of order right now.
Yeah.
Go
You
ahead.
just criticize my way of talking Hispanic. You
Please.
know, our culture, we talk with our hands.
After
I'm intimidated. And you should know about it. So what kind of intimidation I
know
have.
that
You
about
guys,
it.
I'm just upset. Now, by that being said,
Yep.
you were monitoring my minutes, but not other people's minutes. I will let you watch the videos. When I come here, I come already with the predisposition that I'm discriminated. We are Hispanic. I have a bachelor's and 2 masters. I speak 4 languages and fluently write 3 languages. My wife is Italian descendant and speaks Spanish also. And here in this town, they make my wife cry for being Hispanic. You don't think I'm already waiting on you guys
Shame
to
on
attack
them
me?
if they do that.
Thank you.
Shame on them if they do
Oh,
that.
they did that in this town. But
Oh,
the way they feel intimidated when they see a Hispanic
give
being
him pound
successful at the
No.
higher level of education, higher than you guys, and with money. That's why you guys are getting intimidated.
Okay, one parting comment here.
I'm stopping it.
One parting comment here from me, from this chair, on a personal note, not as a city councilman. My wife and I, considering all the diversity that we've talked about tonight,